Chapter 1841. To the people of Flame City, Dark Night City was nothing. For a long time, Dark Night City had been suppressed by Flame City. If it weren't for some special reasons, Dark Night City would have been destroyed long ago. Flame City was very powerful. As an elite of Flame City, he only knew the tip of the iceberg. They only knew the tip of the iceberg. However, even the forces on the surface were enough to crush Anya City, not to mention the forces hidden in the dark. In fact, what puzzled him was that Flame City clearly had a very powerful force, but they didn't reveal it. He believed that if Flame City mobilized all of its forces, not to mention becoming the strongest city in Sky-reaching continent, it wouldn't be a problem for them to become a first-rate force in Sky-reaching continent. Yes. For any city, if they were strong enough, they would be able to occupy more advantageous places and even some blessed lands. Therefore, Flame City had always been very low-key, which made him feel very strange. Although it was strange, he didn't dare to inquire about these secrets. He didn't want to die. If he was too weak and knew too much, he wouldn't have a good ending. You want to submit to me? Yang Hanwu looked at Huateng and the others. I don't want subordinates. Yang Hongwu's tone was very calm, as if he didn't think much of them. Young Master is not an ordinary person. In the future, your achievements will definitely be extraordinary. Dark Night City is just a small pond. How can it accommodate a true dragon like you? Sooner or later, you will roam the 9 heavens. Young Master is a person who does great things, but there are many small things that you can't do personally. You can do those things for us. Huateng was a smart man. He could see that Yang Hongwu was indeed very powerful and had terrifying luck. He was a very observant person and knew his own limits. If it weren't for this, he wouldn't have reached his current level. After all, his aptitude wasn't considered good. In the Sky-reaching realm, there were too many people who were more talented than him. It could even be said that the people of Flame City present here all had better aptitudes than him. And why was he able to become the leader of this group? It was because he was smart enough to know what to do, what not to do. Although his aptitude is not good, he has an exquisite heart. Anya Ilong sighed as he looked at the fire in front of him. Such a person was definitely a talent. For a person like Anya Ilong, it would be very good if he could accept such a person as his servant. Firstly, their talent wasn't strong. No matter how hard they cultivated, they wouldn't have great achievements. Therefore, even if they were ambitious, they could still be controlled. Because in front of absolute strength, they didn't need to care about schemes and schemes. Moreover, such a person would know his own limits and wouldn't be careless. It was easy to take risks. Therefore, such people were needed by those in power the most. Huateng, if you pledge allegiance to me, I can make you my #1 aide, Anya Ilong said to Huateng. Huateng looked at Anya Ilong and said coldly, who do you think you are? In front of Young Master, you're nothing. Young Master is a real dragon. You're not even comparable to a small snake. You want me to pledge allegiance to you? Impossible, even if I die. Anya Ilong was furious when he heard that. It was too hurtful. He was a city lord, but he was being looked down upon and even humiliated. It made him very angry. However, he didn't explode. You can become my servant. I'll give you a chance, Yang Hongwu said. Thank you, young master. I'm willing, Huateng said. What about you? Yang Hongwu looked at them and said, if you want to pledge allegiance to Anya City, that's fine too. Of course, if you follow me, you can only be my servant. Your life and death will be under my control. As a servant, they had to sacrifice a wisp of their soul. That way, their life and death wouldn't be under their control. In fact, it was a slave seal. We're willing to become young master's servants. We're willing to pledge allegiance to Anya City. Except for a few people who were willing to become Yang Hongwu's servants, the rest chose to pledge allegiance to Anya City. Of course, there were 2 people who glared at Yang Hongwu and Huateng. Traitors! You traitors! You'll all die a horrible death. A wise man submits to circumstances. Huateng said, young master is a real dragon ruler. Sooner or later, he'll soar into the sky and become a peerless expert. I curse you to die a horrible death. I curse. Before the two people could curse, Yang Hongwu's thought moved. A flame instantly enveloped the two people. In a breath's time, the two people turned into ashes. As for their dying curses, they also disappeared. Terrifying. What a terrifying strength. That flame is the legendary karmic fire. Only karmic fire can easily remove the power of their dying curses. Anya Ilong murmured. Thank you, young master. Pudding and the rest quickly thanked Yang Hongwu. One had to know that although the power of the curse wasn't fatal to them, it would still cause great harm to them. If it was light, their cultivation base wouldn't improve and they would develop demonic thoughts. If it was serious, they would go berserk and even die. Half a day later, Yang Hongwu, Anya Shenv, Pudding and a few other servants appeared in Flame City's Divine Flame Mountain. The Divine Flame Mountain was an ancient mountain within the Flame City's territory. This ancient mountain was filled with danger, and if one did not have sufficient strength and luck, one would most likely die. It was rumored that there was a huge secret hidden within the Divine Fire Mountain. Huateng guessed that the secret within the Divine Fire Mountain had most likely been discovered by the City Lord of Flame City, who was also the Fire Immortal Blade. If that wasn't the case, Flame City wouldn't have been able to hide such a powerful force in the dark. The reason why Huateng guessed that the secret had been discovered and only a part of it was controlled. It was because Flame City hadn't started to expand. This was probably one of the reasons. Because they hadn't fully grasped the secret, they didn't dare to rashly attack other cities. If they did, it would attract trouble. They might even expose the secret and other experts would covet it. At that time, if they didn't have enough strength, they would lose the supreme treasure. Of course, this was just Huateng's guess. Whether it was true or not, he didn't know. After all, he wasn't the real upper echelon of Flame City. As for the secret of the Divine Flame Mountain, only a few people knew about it. These people were the ones who had absolute control of Flame City. Chapter 1842. What a majestic mountain. Yang Hongwu looked at the mountain in front of him and couldn't help but sigh with emotion. Such an ancient mountain was absolutely rare in the divine realm. Of course, it wasn't that there weren't any. However, from this point of view, the divine realm was much worse than the sky-reaching continent. This was very normal. Yang Hongwu didn't know whether there were emperor-level experts in the divine realm. However, in the sky-reaching continent, there were even sovereign-level experts, let alone emperor-level experts. The gap between them was imaginable. Yang Hongwu also sighed with emotion. Now, after entering the divine palace and cultivating, his strength was simply incomparable to before. Now, his cultivation was already at the divine emperor level. In the divine realm, Zetian, the demon lord, was estimated to be at most at the emperor level. As long as he wasn't at the sovereign level, he would have a way to deal with him. As for Zetian, he was at most at that level. He shouldn't have reached the sovereign level. In this way, he didn't need to worry. As long as he could return to the divine realm, he would be able to completely suppress Zetian or the demon lord. However, to Yang Hongwu, the problem at hand was how to return. Returning to the deity's domain was a huge problem. Yang Hongwu had a hunch that it wouldn't be easy to return to the divine realm. This was what Yang Hongwu was most worried about. After putting aside his thoughts, Yang Hongwu looked at the divine flame mountain in front of him. This ancient mountain contained an ancient power. This ancient power was very frightening. Even Yang Hongwu felt threatened by it. However, the origin of this ancient mountain was very attractive to Yang Hongwu. He clearly felt that the karmic fire of the Red Lotus yearned for the origin of this ancient mountain. Similarly, Yang Hongwu's Dharma Eye of Annihilation was also very interested in the origin of this ancient mountain. The origin of this ancient mountain seemed to be able to bring great benefits to the karmic fire of the Red Lotus and his Dharma Eye of Annihilation. It would probably allow them to improve and evolve again. Of course, it's incomparably majestic. The Divine Flame Mountain is one of the rare ancient mountains in the sky-reaching continent. Each of these ancient mountains is extremely mysterious, and dangerous. Although there are many dangers in these ancient mountains, there are also countless opportunities. Many people have entered these ancient mountains and their life and death is unknown. However, there are also many experts and geniuses who have obtained great opportunities after entering these ancient mountains and became experts of their generation. However, they are only a minority after all. As for the Divine Flame Mountain, it was one of the most dangerous ancient mountains. That was because after entering the Divine Flame Mountain, one would be able to enter the Divine Flame Mountain. The number of people who obtain such opportunities is far too few. It can be said that there are almost none, said Huateng. If that's the case, why did you ask us to come here? Are you trying to trick us? Anya Shen frowned and said coldly. I wouldn't dare. Huateng hurriedly explained, fearing that Yang Hanwu would misunderstand. I'm now young master's servant. My life is in young master's hands. How would I dare to trick young master? The goddess of the dark night nodded. After all, this was the truth. After becoming Yang Hongwu's servant and having a slave imprint planted in him, there was no way he could resist his master. Unless his strength had reached an inconceivable level, or perhaps it was better to say that he had reached the ruler level. Huateng's strength was far from that level. If he had reached that level, how could he have been defeated so easily by Yang Hongwu? Which one of these sovereigns wasn't a lofty overlord of a region? How could a sovereign realm expert become the leader of a small guard in a small city? This was obviously impossible. Experts had the dignity of experts. They would not easily submit to others, especially when the other party's strength was so weak. Moreover, their influence was so weak. Young master, let me explore the way first, Huateng said. Let's go. There's no need for you to explore the way. Yang Hongwu shook his head. Although his Dharma Eye of Annihilation had not been fully opened, everything within 100 feet could be seen clearly. Even if it was within 1,000 feet, Yang Hongwu could still see some clues. Once there was danger, he would be able to sense it. Unless the other party was extremely powerful, Yang Hongwu was not worried at all. Even if he encountered a true sovereign realm expert, Yang Hongwu could still escape unscathed. Of course, if it was a servant like Huateng, he would give up. As for Anya Shenv, he would not give up. After all, Anya Shenv had experienced life and death with him. Although he trusted him completely, Anya Shenv's position in Yang Hongwu's heart was only second to his own woman. After all, he had not become his woman yet. Along the way, Yang Hongwu and the others encountered many strange beasts. However, these strange beasts were not very strong. Yang Hongwu could easily kill them. Of course, Yang Hongwu did not have to do it himself. After all, he still had Huateng as his servant. If he had to do such a small thing himself, what was the use of having a servant? Sir, I can sense the aura of Flame City's martialists here. Huateng stopped when they arrived at the side of a cave. He said, there is something strange about this cave. I can sense the aura of Flame City's martialists. If I'm not wrong, there should be people here. They have been here before. We don't know what dangers lie in this cave. It would be unwise to enter rashly, Anya Shen said. Therefore, we have to be careful. How about this, sir? I will go in and investigate. If there is no danger, I will send a message to you. As a servant, Huateng naturally had to have the awareness of a servant. If a servant did not even do something as simple as scouting, then there was no point in being a servant. Yang Hongwu frowned slightly. There was a special boundary around this cave. This boundary was actually able to isolate him from probing. It was definitely not simple. What exactly was inside this cave? Yang Hongwu's curiosity was piqued. However, the crux of the problem was, what dangers could lie within this cave? Chapter 1843. Something's wrong. Yang Hongwu frowned. The talisman shadow was, in fact, a talisman beast. Unexpectedly, he lost contact with the talisman beast. After entering the spirit domain, he lost control of it within a breath. Yang Hanwu couldn't help but worry. He was a little worried. "What's wrong, young master?" Huateng asked. "Did you find something wrong?" Anya Shen asked. "There's a spirit domain in this cave. I don't know what's inside the spirit domain. I lost contact with my talisman beast after entering the spirit domain." Yang Hanwu narrowed his eyes. "In that case, do we still want to go in and find out?" Anya Shen asked. "Young master, let me go in and explore," Huateng said. "It's no use. You can't go in. With your strength, you can't enter the spirit domain." Yang Hanwu shook his head. That spirit domain was not that simple. If it was so easy to enter, his talisman beast would not have lost contact with it in such a short time. Yang Hanwu knew very well that the reason why his talisman beast lost contact with him after entering was probably because of the spirit domain. There was also a special force in the spirit domain that suppressed the talisman beast, causing it to dissipate. Is that spirit domain so powerful? Huateng was a little surprised when he heard this, but he was also quite unconvinced. After all, although he was not a top expert, his strength was still very good. He was not convinced that a barrier could stump him. However, since Yang Hanwu said so, although he was a little unhappy, he did not refute. After all, Yang Hanwu was the master, and he was just a servant. Well, it's very powerful. There are not many people who can break this spirit domain even in the Tongtian land. At the very least, they must be at the city lord level. If their cultivation is weak, it's impossible to break the spirit domain. Yang Hanwu said, "So, this spirit domain must be very powerful. The strength of the person who set up the barrier in the cave should not be simple, and there is a 90% chance that there is a shocking secret hidden in the barrier." "Then, young master, should we give up and leave?" Huateng asked. "No, since we are already here, there is no reason not to go in and take a look." Yang Hanwu narrowed his eyes and said, "I'll help young master scout the way." Huateng's eyes lit up. After all, Huateng had an adventurous spirit. However, if Yang Hanwu didn't say anything, he couldn't go against Yang Hanwu's wishes and enter the cave. Yang Hanwu nodded. Huateng walked in front while Yang Hanwu and Anya Shen followed behind. Not long after, the three of them arrived at the boundary. Bang! Huateng did not discover the enchantment and continued to move forward. In the end, he was knocked down. The strong recoil made him uncomfortable. This is a barrier?" Huateng's eyes widened. There was no sign in front of him at all. This was an invisible barrier. This barrier was too powerful. "Open for me." Yang Hanwu said before that he couldn't break this barrier. Huateng was not convinced. He thought to himself that he could break the barrier himself to impress Yang Hanwu. Yang Hanwu naturally saw Huateng trying to break the barrier by force. Seeing Huateng like this, he knew what Huateng was thinking and did not stop him. Because Yang Hanwu knew that he was destined to fail. If this barrier was so easy to break, then Yang Hanwu wouldn't have put it in his eyes. It should be known that Yang Hanwu himself was not only highly accomplished in the field of formations, but also in the field of restrictions. This boundary was, in fact, the combination of formations and restrictions to form a special force that was used to seal off space. It could also be said that it was a mutated use of the Tao of space. Although Huateng's strength was good, he did not cultivate the Tao of formations, nor did he master the Tao of restriction, let alone the Tao of space. Therefore, he had no hope of breaking this barrier. There were only 3 ways to break such a barrier. One was absolute strength, the second was to master the Tao of space, and the third was to have an extremely high attainment in barriers. Yang Hanwu happened to know all 3 of these ways. Therefore, this barrier was like an insurmountable mountain in front of Huateng. It was a mountain that could be crossed. However, in Yang Hanwu's eyes, it was not a big problem. It was not difficult to break it. Bang! When Huateng's fist hit the barrier, the powerful force sent Huateng flying. Huateng suffered a huge backlash. His attack was reflected back onto his body. This powerful impact instantly caused him to be seriously injured. Huateng was shocked. Huateng was shocked. Huateng spat out a mouthful of blood and climbed up. He smiled bitterly in his heart. He had overestimated himself. His young master had said that he did not have the ability to break this barrier. However, he did not believe it and insisted on trying. This time, he deserved to be injured. After climbing up, he came to Yang Hongwu's side. He lowered his head and said, "Young master, I'm sorry. I acted on my own. Take this medicinal pill." Yang Hongwu did not blame him. He handed him a medicinal pill. "This medicinal pill can help you recover from your injuries." "Thank you, young master." Huateng was very grateful. After all, if he did not act on his own, he would not be injured. Fortunately, it did not cause any big problems. He was only injured. If his young master was implicated because of this, then his sin would be great. "Step back," Yang Hongwu said to Huateng and Anya Shenv. "Young master, this barrier is not that simple. You have to be careful." Huateng had learned from his mistakes. He did not want to try again. "Young master Yang, you have to be careful. If you are not sure, then don't try." Anya Shenv was also a little worried. To be honest, although Huateng's strength was not very good, he was seriously injured by the backlash of the barrier. This barrier was not simple. However, the owner of the barrier, or rather, the person inside the barrier, was even more terrifying. This time, the three of them wanted to break the barrier. It was definitely a provocation to the owner of the barrier. If the barrier was not broken and they only suffered a backlash, it would not be a big deal. However, once the barrier was broken, the three of them would have to face the person who set up the barrier. They did not know how strong the other party was. Dao. Chapter 1844. Huateng couldn't help but widen his eyes when he saw Yang Hongwu reach his hand into the barrier so easily. The gap between them was too big. Although he knew that the gap between him and Yang Hongwu was huge, Yang Hongwu could do it so easily. He knew that the gap between them was much bigger than he imagined. Anya Shenv was also surprised. He didn't expect Yang Hongwu to have such amazing attainments in the field of barriers. She could clearly feel that it was impossible for her to break this barrier. After all, she knew that when Huateng tried to break it by force before. "Let's go." After Yang Hongwu went in, he walked back and waved his hand at the barrier. A hole appeared in the barrier. The hole seemed to be closing at any time, but it didn't close. Anya Shenv and Huateng knew that Yang Hongwu had solved the problem of the barrier, so they followed Yang Hongwu and entered the barrier. After entering the barrier, the two were stunned by what they saw in front of them. Inside the barrier, the spiritual energy was rich. It was like a paradise. Cultivating here was much faster than cultivating outside. What a rich spiritual energy. This is definitely a holy place for cultivation. Cultivating here will definitely improve by leaps and bounds. Anya Shen said. "Well, if I can cultivate here for a year, I feel that I can break through my bottleneck." Huateng was very excited, especially for someone like him who didn't have enough talent and aptitude. If he cultivated here, he felt that the spiritual energy here seemed to be able to improve his body. Physique, this was the most amazing thing. If the spiritual energy of a place could change a warrior's physique, then how tempting would this place be to a warrior? In fact, he also knew that if he could become a city lord and get the blessing of the city's power of fortune, he could gradually improve his physique. However, how difficult was it to become a city lord? Without sufficient talent and strength, it was impossible to do so. That was because there were tens of thousands of cities in the sky-reaching continent, each of which was connected to a different world. The reason why becoming a city lord could improve one's physique was because of the origin of that world. The origin was constantly improving the physique of a city lord. Therefore, the strength of a city lord was so strong. Generally speaking, as a city lord, his aptitude and talent were not only the best in the whole city, but also the best. Ordinary people couldn't be compared to him. However, in order to become a city lord, the most important thing was to be recognized by the origin of that world. Only then could one become a city lord. Once a city had a city lord, it would be very difficult for others to compete for the city lord's position. It was basically impossible. Of course, once a city was destroyed and annexed by another city, the source energy of the city and the source energy of the world would be severed. However, a part of the source energy of the world contained in the annexed city would also be devoured. Therefore, if a city was destroyed, it would also be a great loss to the origin of that city. Right now, this place was not only rich in spiritual energy, but it could also improve one's physique if one cultivated here for a long time. This made Huiting think that it would be great if he could cultivate here for a long time. Was this the secret of the divine flame mountain? Could there be a supreme treasure in this space? A treasure that could improve a cultivator's physique? If he could get it, it would be heaven-defying. It was equivalent to owning a city. No, it was even more heaven-defying than owning a city. Young master, the spiritual energy here is very beneficial to cultivators. It can improve their physique. There must be a supreme treasure here. Huiting said. Yes, we must get this supreme treasure. Anya Shen nodded. Of course, she also discovered the secret of the spiritual energy here. She had to admit that the spiritual energy in this space were indeed strange. If there was really such a supreme treasure, then it could be said that it was truly heaven-defying. When one's cultivation reached a certain level, it was too difficult to change one's physique again. Unless one obtained special heavenly treasures or supreme divine medicines, only then could it have the effect of improving one's physique. In any case, it was very rare and the spiritual energy here could improve one's physique. Although the speed was not fast, it could improve the physique of many people. At least, in Anya Shen's knowledge, there were very few treasures that could improve a cultivator's physique and talent. Moreover, it was absolutely impossible to improve the physique and talent of many people at the same time without any side effects. The treasure in front of them was one such treasure. Therefore, it would be a pity to give it up. There was no doubt that such a treasure was something that many experts would fight over. It's not that simple. Yang Hongwu said, even if there is such a supreme treasure, it is not easy to get it. Where is this place? The aura of the Flame City's cultivators is still here. Someone must have been here. The other party must be from Flame City. Huiting said at this time. Are you sure? Yang Hongwu asked. Yang Hongwu found that unless his Dharma Eye of Annihilation was fully opened, he could not be unscrupulous in this space. He could only explore a limited area. In this space, there was a very special pressure. This was a very special pressure. It seemed to come from the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in this space. In other words, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth could improve one's physique. Although the spiritual energy could improve one's physique, it was very strange. It had a great effect on the cultivator's innate divine powers or special divine techniques. Yang Hongwu finally understood why his talisman beast disappeared so quickly after entering this space. It was because of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth here. This might be a special origin space. Chapter 1845. This space was not simple. Yang Hongwu was very clear about this. However, Yang Hongwu could not probe too far. The law of this space limited his eye technique. This made Yang Hongwu feel very helpless. If he couldn't investigate too far away, he wouldn't be able to grasp the threat that existed in this space. This was disadvantageous for Yang Hongwu. If he rashly moved forward, it was very likely that he would fall into a trap. However, since he had already entered, there was no reason not to continue. If he gave up, it would not be Yang Hongwu's style. Let's go and have a look, Yang Hongwu said. Although it was dangerous, Yang Hongwu was still confident. The spiritual energy here could improve one's physique. There must be a huge secret. This was an opportunity. Opportunities usually coexisted with danger. The greater the opportunity, the greater the danger. Soon, the three of them came to a fork in the road. A fork in the road. This was a fork in the road. Master, where should we go now? Huteng looked at the fork in front of him. He did not know where to go. This could only be decided by Yang Hongwu. After all, he was the real leader. This way. Yang Hongwu pointed to a fork in the road. Why did you choose this fork? Anya Shen saw Yang Hongwu's choice and could not help but ask curiously. The spiritual energy came from this fork. If I'm not wrong, if there is a treasure, it must be at the end of this fork. Yang Hongwu said, however, this fork should be the most dangerous. Huateng and Anya Shen were both very puzzled. Why couldn't they feel it? But Yang Hongwu could tell which fork the spiritual energy came from. However, this was a secret. It was naturally not appropriate for them to ask. The three of them entered the fork in the road and continued to move forward. In the depths of the cave, there was an ancient palace. In the palace, there were 3 people sitting cross-legged. Someone broke in, one of them said. Third brother, did you feel it too? Another person opened his eyes and asked. I felt it. There are 2 people. Those 2 auras aren't that powerful. Logically speaking, their strength shouldn't be enough to open the spirit formation. However, those 2 managed to enter. Big brother, let me go and take a look. I want to see just what kind of background those 2 have, said third brother. No matter what, we can't let the 2 of them leave. Since they've entered the cave of the Divine Fire Mountain, we can't let them leave alive. Otherwise, if the secret is exposed, all our efforts will be for naught, said a white-clothed scholar among the 3 people. In fact, out of the 3 of them, only 2 chi had been discovered. This meant that there was still one more chi that hadn't been discovered. That person was Yang Hongwu. Yang Hongwu's aura was very special, causing the 3 people in the ancient palace to not discover the existence of Yang Hongwu. Yang Hongwu, on the other hand, felt 3 auras sweeping over him. We've been exposed. Yang Hongwu suddenly stopped and looked at the other 2 people. We've been discovered? Anya Shen was a little nervous. How strong are they? I'm not sure, but they're stronger than the 2 of you. One of them should have reached the sovereign realm, Yang Hongwu said. The 2 people couldn't help but gasp. The strength of a sovereign realm expert was absolutely terrifying. Even if the 3 of them worked together, they wouldn't have a chance of winning. Young master, what should we do? Huateng said. I'll go and block them. Young master, you should leave first. Block them? Can you block them? Yang Hongwu said. You're not strong enough to block them. Just one move and your head will roll. Young master, although I'm not strong enough, I can still delay them and buy you a little bit of time to leave safely, Huateng said. Although he didn't want to die, he had no other choice. Moreover, he was a smart person. Since Yang Hongwu didn't seem nervous, he didn't worry. He knew that Yang Hongwu had a way to deal with them. Therefore, he had to show his loyalty. Moreover, he knew that if he couldn't escape, he would definitely die. The Dark Night Goddess looked at Huateng's loyalty and couldn't help but sigh. A servant like him was extremely rare. Moreover, he was forced to submit to her. How could he be so loyal? It was truly rare. In fact, Anya Shen didn't know what Huateng was thinking. However, none of this could escape Yang Hongwu's eyes. No need, Yang Hongwu said. If they really come, you won't be able to deal with them. Let's fight them to the death, Anya Shen said. I'm not someone to be trifled with. Yang Hongwu obviously knew what Anya Shen was talking about. She had a trump card in her hand. Even if she couldn't defeat them, she could at least delay them. Let's go together. We'll meet them and see who they are. Yang Hongwu's eyes lit up as she said. Although the other party was strong, Yang Hongwu wasn't weak either. Moreover, Yang Hongwu knew that it wouldn't be easy for the other party to refine that treasure. Therefore, although there were sovereign realm experts among them, they couldn't display the strength of a sovereign realm expert. If they could unleash the power of a sovereign, Yang Hongwu wouldn't dare to take the risk. As the saying goes, a gentleman doesn't stand under a dangerous wall. This was the principle. Without absolute confidence in protecting herself, Yang Hanwu wouldn't take the risk unless it was absolutely necessary. But, young master, isn't this too risky? Huateng was taken aback. In such a situation, they couldn't even escape. Wasn't this walking right into a trap? Even Anya Shen was taken aback. What do you think? What do I think? Yang Hanwu smiled. Have you forgotten the purpose of this trip? Treasure? Anya Shen was taken aback. Why are you still thinking about that treasure at a time like this? Or have you not discovered the so-called sovereigns at all? Are you just trying to trick us? Are you joking? Do I look like someone who would joke around? Yan Hanwu said. You've known me for a long time and I've never joked around. They are indeed very strong. Furthermore, they have already discovered our presence. Chapter 1846. What a terrifying aura. What a powerful cultivation base. Huateng's expression was solemn. This person's cultivation base was even more terrifying than the Fire Immoral Blade, the City Lord of Flame City. Unless the Fire Immoral Blade had unleashed the origin energy of Flame City, it wouldn't be so terrifying. The aura coming from his body was also of the fire attribute. There were traces of Flame City's cultivation techniques. Kid, are you a disciple of Flame City? Huishinta looked at Huateng and asked. There were traces of Flame City's cultivation techniques on Huateng's body. As an old antique of Flame City, how could he not tell? As for Yang Hanwu and Anya Shen, there were no traces of Flame City's cultivation techniques in their bodies. Therefore, they shouldn't be disciples of Flame City. A disciple of Flame City and two outsiders had entered the Divine Flame Mountain, found their location, and even broke through the barrier. He couldn't help but be surprised. However, among the three of them, only the woman's cultivation base was slightly stronger. Even so, he didn't think much of her. However, they hadn't noticed Yang Hongwu's aura at first. This was what shocked him the most. No. Huateng said, I came with my master. Who are you? You're not a disciple of Flame City? Huishintu's face darkened. A person who had cultivated Flame City's cultivation techniques wasn't a disciple of Flame City. This made him furious. One had to know that to leave behind traces of Flame City's cultivation techniques, one had to have the blood of Flame City, or Flame Continent. Secondly, one had to be a core disciple of Flame City to cultivate it. Since he had cultivated it, it proved that he had the blood of Flame City and was a core disciple of Flame City. However, he had followed an outsider. How could he not be angry? I am Huishintu. You cultivate Flame City's cultivation techniques. You should know. Huishintu stared at Huateng. What's your name? Who are the two of them? Where are they from? Huishintu pointed at Yang Hanwu and Anya Shen. Fire God diagram, is it? Huateng is my slave. You have no right to question him. As for who I am? Yang Hanwu paused and said, you don't have the right to know. Out of the three of you, only you came. Aren't you afraid that I'll kill you? Huishintu burst into laughter and said, boy, you're really arrogant. You must have some kind of treasure on you to conceal your chi. That's why I didn't notice your existence. I didn't expect that you, a mere divine emperor, would be so arrogant. You even said that you want to kill me. You really don't know what to do. The Tao is as high as the sky and as deep as the earth. Huishintu felt as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. A divine emperor realm warrior dared to threaten to kill him. How ridiculous! He was now a sovereign realm expert. Although he had just stepped into the early sovereign realm, he was still comparable to an emperor realm expert. He was much stronger than a divine emperor, not to mention a divine emperor realm ant. Yes, an ant. In front of a sovereign realm expert, a divine emperor realm warrior was just an ant. Even an emperor realm warrior was just a slightly bigger ant. In front of a sovereign realm expert, they could kill him with a flick of their finger. Therefore, when Yang Hanwu said that he wanted to kill him, he felt that it was so funny. Yang Hanwu was young and strong. It was undeniable that he was a genius. However, before he grew up, so what if he was a genius? In the Tongtian continent, geniuses were as numerous as the stars in the universe. However, geniuses who could grow up and become real experts were few and far between. Is it funny? Yang Hanwu said coldly, if you're done laughing, you can die. You're really arrogant. Let me see what gave you the courage to provoke me. The fiery god too raised his hand slightly and condensed a ball of flame. It was a blazing white flame that seemed to be able to burn everything, including the soul. I'll let you see what a real expert is. I'll teach you on behalf of your elders what respect and humility are. You must be humble, otherwise, you'll be easily beaten to death. After saying that, the fiery god too waved the ball of flame in his hand. The ball of flame turned into a sharp arrow and flew towards Yang Hanwu. Its speed was so fast that it made people speechless. Be careful. Huateng warned. This flame was not inferior to the fiery immortal saber's life flame. It might even be stronger. Good. Yang Hanwu laughed when he saw this scene. You're not qualified to teach me on behalf of my elders. After saying that, Yang Hanwu reached out and grabbed the ball of flame. In Yang Hanwu's hand, the flame couldn't do any harm to him. Then, Yang Hanwu opened his mouth and sent the ball of flame into his mouth, devouring it directly. Anya Shen had already expected this. Although Huateng had seen that Yang Hanwu wasn't afraid of the divine flame, he was still shocked at this moment. One should know that this guy in front of him was an ancestor of Flame City. He was one of the strongest people in Flame City. His divine flame was much stronger than before. The few young geniuses who entered Flame City from Flame Continent were much stronger than him. However, Yang Hanwu was able to devour this powerful flame. Terrifying, truly terrifying. Kid, what treasure did you use? How can you devour my divine flame? Huateng narrowed his eyes as he looked at Yang Hanwu. He had to admit that Yang Hanwu's strength wasn't bad. Coupled with his supreme treasure, he could actually ignore his divine flame. No wonder he was so arrogant. If this kid were to grow up, he would definitely be the nemesis of cultivators who cultivated the divine flame. Once they lost the power of the divine flame, the cultivators of Flame City would be akin to tigers without teeth. Their strength would be greatly restricted. Therefore, no matter what, he had to snatch the supreme treasure from Lin Fan. Not only that, he had to kill Lin Fan too. He couldn't let him have the chance to grow. Thinking of this, the murderous intent in Huateng's eyes became even more terrifying. He locked onto Yang Hanwu. You want to kill me? The corners of Yang Hanwu's mouth curled up into a smile. He looked at the fire god diagram without any fear. Kid, I'll give you a chance. Acknowledge me as your master and become a disciple of Flame City. I can make you the next city lord of Flame City. Huateng looked at Yang Hanwu and said. Chapter 1847. A mere divine emperor realm warrior, no matter how strong his talent was, no matter how powerful his treasure was, he was still an ant. After saying that, the fiery god diagram's powerful aura burst out, crushing towards Yang Hanwu. It's useless. It's useless. Your aura is useless against me. Yang Hanwu smiled faintly. Show me what you're capable of. Otherwise, you won't even know how you're going to die. You're an expert after all. I'll give you a chance to show me what you're capable of. Otherwise, you won't be able to rest in peace. Yang Hanwu said while secretly setting up a formation. The space around them was sealed by Yang Hanwu. Unknowingly, the fiery god diagram had not noticed it. In fact, if the fiery god diagram had launched an attack at the beginning with his strongest strength, Yang Hanwu might not have been able to withstand it. After all, the fiery god diagram was not weak. He was an expert of the sovereign realm. Due to some special reasons, his cultivation could not be fully unleashed. After all, he was still an expert of the sovereign realm. His cultivation was still too weak. If he could reach the level of an emperor, he would not be afraid. The problem was that he was not at the level of an emperor yet. He was only a divine emperor. He did not know how long it would take for him to reach the level of an emperor. However, Yang Hongwu had a premonition that this place might be an opportunity for his cultivation to reach the next level. What a boastful tone. I hope you can still be so arrogant later. After saying that, Huishintu raised his right hand slightly and clenched it into a fist. He condensed a powerful force and threw a punch towards Yang Hongwu. This punch didn't have any fancy moves. It was just a simple punch. However, this punch was extremely powerful. However, it contained a powerful force and the fire attribute divine ability. This punch contained the strength of a sovereign realm expert. What a powerful punch. Unfortunately, you haven't fully comprehended the fire attribute divine ability. It's just the tip of the iceberg. It won't cause any harm to me. Yang Hongwu laughed. Humph. Brat, what do you know? The fire attribute doesn't harm you? That's a joke. Although your treasure is powerful and can devour the power of the divine fire, you should know that any treasure has a limit. You're just a divine emperor realm warrior, you can't resist my power, said Yimo. As soon as he finished speaking, his fist was already in front of Yang Hongwu. However, in the next moment, something that left him dumbfounded occurred. When this punch landed on Yang Hongwu's body, it actually didn't move him at all. In fact, there wasn't even the slightest ripple. This is impossible, shouted Huishin Tuesday. Even the most powerful expert in the continent of Skyspan, the sovereign of Skyspan, wouldn't dare to stand still and face his fist head-on. Huishin Tu was very confident in his own strength. Huishin Tu looked at Huishin Tuesday. Nothing is impossible. You're too weak. You can't even break through my defenses. How can you be a sovereign? What a joke. I think you're more like a pig. Yang Hongwu sneered. Huishintu, Huateng and Anya Shen were stunned. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. When did Yang Hongwu become so terrifying? They could clearly feel Huishintu's powerful aura. He was definitely not an ordinary expert. His strength was so terrifying that even if Anya Shen and Huateng joined forces, they wouldn't be his match. That punch just now was enough to kill Huateng and injure Anya Shen. Even if Anya Shen was protected by a powerful talisman, it would still be the same. That was why they were so shocked when Yang Hongwu blocked Huishintu's punch unscathed. That punch didn't even shake his clothes. Terrifying, truly terrifying. What level had Yang Hongwu's strength reached? It was amazing. In fact, only Yang Hongwu himself knew that Huishintu's punch was very powerful and terrifying. It almost couldn't withstand it. The formation was on the verge of collapsing. The reason why they saw that Yang Hongwu wasn't injured at all and that his clothes didn't even shake was that he was in another dimension. This was something that Yang Hongwu had just comprehended. It was a secret technique that was combined with the formation. Without the formation, Yang Hongwu wouldn't have been able to do it. Although they saw that he was in the same dimension as them, they were actually in another time and space. Although there was only a thin line between them, they couldn't hit him. The attack from the fiery deity diagram had all landed on the formation that Yang Hongwu had set up. It did not cause any harm to his body, or rather, his physical body. The only thing that had caused trouble for Yang Hongwu was the huge consumption of his mental strength. After all, operating the formation had consumed a lot of his mental strength. Magic also needed to be consumed. The fire god's portrait's attack was quite terrifying. The array was almost destroyed. Yang Hongwu felt a little lucky. After all, a dominator expert was a dominator expert. His combat strength was far beyond that of an ordinary emperor. Even a half-step dominator expert was a far cry from him. If he really went all out, even a half-step dominator might not be able to withstand his punch. However, although Yang Hongwu had consumed a lot of energy after taking the blow with the formation, he recovered quickly. After all, Yang Hongwu cultivated the Nine Heavens Divine Dragon technique in his unparalleled physical strength. His recovery ability was too strong. If it was just a cultivator of the same level, Yang Hongwu wouldn't have consumed any energy. If he used the formation to deal with an emperor-level cultivator, he wouldn't have consumed any energy either. the stronger the physical body, the stronger the foundation, and the stronger the recovery ability in battle. This was an advantage. This was also why if the physical body wasn't strong enough and the foundation wasn't strong enough, one's future achievements would be limited. Pig? The Hushintu was so angry that he couldn't catch his breath. He spat out a mouthful of blood. Damn it, little bastard. I don't believe that you must have a supreme treasure today. However, let's see how many attacks you can take. Although the Hushintu had just suffered a blow, and that punch had consumed a lot of energy, his strength was still very strong. After all, he was a dominator expert. Even though he had suffered a blow and was on the verge of exploding, he still endured it. Chapter 1848. Infuriated, Hushintu punched again. However, this time, it didn't kill Yang Hanwu as he had expected. Just like before, it didn't even cause the slightest ripple. Not even the corner of Hushintu's clothes were ruffled. The fire god too felt helpless. Could it be that he was really far from being a match for him? Was his strength really that weak? The first time was an accident, but a second time was impossible. The fire god too was starting to doubt his life. That said, the flaming god diagram was a sovereign lord. Even though his heart was in turmoil, he quickly recovered and calmed down. Although this treasure of yours can block my attack and I can't do anything to you, your cultivation is still too weak. Even with the protection of a supreme treasure, you can't do anything to me. The fiery god diagram pondered for a moment. This was one of the reasons why Yang Hanwu didn't take the initiative to attack. There was one reason. It was because he was too weak, and that treasure was a defensive treasure. It did not possess any offensive capabilities. That was why he did not attack Chufeng. With this in mind, the corners of Fire God Tu's mouth curled up into a smile, as if victory was already in his grasp. I can't kill you or even hurt you, but what about them? The Fire God Tu pointed at Huatang and Anya Shenv. They can't possibly have such a powerful supreme treasure to protect them, right? Even if I can't kill you, I can still take care of them. Huatang and Anya Shen's expressions changed when they heard the Fire God Tu's words. Although the Fire God Tu's attack on Yang Hanwu had consumed a lot of his energy, his strength was still terrifying. The two of them definitely couldn't stop him. However, Yang Hanwu smiled and looked at the two of them. You can try. Yang Hanwu appeared to be very confident. He didn't seem to care at all. He looked as if victory was already within his grasp. Let's try. Do you think I'm that easy to fool? The Fire God too stretched out his hand and grabbed at Huatang. However, when he was about to grab Huatang, he realized that he was blocked by an invisible barrier. Formation? Barrier? How is this possible? How did you manage to set up a formation and a barrier without anyone noticing? At this moment, the fiery god diagram could no longer remain calm. He finally understood why his attack had been unable to harm Yang Hanwu in the slightest. It was blocked by the barrier. No, that wasn't right either. If it was a spirit formation, he could clearly sense that the power he had unleashed earlier had disappeared. It had been offset, or even devoured. This young man was too terrifying. He had so many tricks up his sleeves. Where did he come from? At the very least, after living for so many years, he had never heard of such a terrifying genius in the sky-reaching continent. Even the sky-reaching ruler, who was an unparalleled martial emperor, was not that terrifying. More importantly, the guy in front of him was only a divine emperor. If he reached the sovereign realm, how powerful would he be? No one in the entire heaven-span continent could contend with him. Huateng heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that the fire god's illustration's attack had been blocked. If he had been hit, he would have been seriously injured even if he didn't die. This was the difference in strength. It seems like you're quite knowledgeable. Yes, this is a spirit formation. Yang Hanwu looked at the fire god diagram and said, accept your fate. You have no hope in my spirit formation. You won't even be able to escape, let alone kill me. The fire god diagram snorted coldly, although I don't know when you set up this spirit formation, or if there's an expert hiding in the dark, this is the territory of Flame City. Moreover, I'm not the only one in this divine flame mountain. My two brothers are here as well. With your strength alone, or rather, your supreme treasure, although it's impossible for me to break through it alone, there are three of us here. Do you think you can withstand our combined strength? You'll never be able to withstand our combined strength. I advise you to surrender now. It's not too late. Otherwise, when my two brothers come, you will have no hope. Yang Hanwu smiled when he heard that. You won't shed tears until you see the coffin. Yang Hanwu said, why don't you give it a try? Can you contact your brothers? I admit that the three of you are very powerful. Unfortunately, you can't use your full strength right now. Moreover, you can't contact your brother. In this space, Yi Zichen was stunned. This space has been completely sealed by me. They won't be able to find this place. You can't get out, or even send a message. That's impossible. The fire god diagram was unwilling to admit it, but when he tried to contact his two brothers, he found that everything was in vain. This space had been completely sealed. At this moment, the fire god diagram looked at Yang Hanwu with eyes full of fear. How is it? Yang Hanwu asked. How did you do it? I've never heard of a spirit formation that can completely isolate and seal off space. The fire god diagram looked at Yang Hanwu with eyes full of fear. At this moment, Yang Hanwu's strength was far beyond his expectation. A divine emperor realm warrior could not even make him fight back. He was toyed within the palm of his hand. He, the fire god diagram, had never met such an opponent since he was born. He had never encountered such a humiliating situation. Even though he had a strong mind, he was at a loss at this moment. He did not know what to do. Why should I tell you? Yang Hanwu said, are these your last words? If so, I can send you on your way. The fire god diagram was shocked when he heard Yang Hanwu's words. He looked at him and said, you want to kill me? Yes, leave your last words. Yang Hanwu said. You can't kill me. The fire god diagram said, although I don't know how you've trapped me, you can't kill me. If you could, you would have done it already. Am I right? Chapter 1849. Naive, you're too naive. Do you really think I can't kill you? Yang Hanwu sneered. In his own space, Yang Hanwu sealed his power. He could even use the power of the devouring furnace and the yin-yang great millstone to completely obliterate his physical body and soul. It was just a matter of time. I'll show you my real strength. Come out, devouring furnace. With a single thought from Yang Hanwu, a gigantic furnace appeared. This furnace was none other than the devouring furnace. Anya Shen was already used to it. Huateng had also seen it before. The devouring furnace seemed to be able to devour everything and increase Yang Hanwu's cultivation. It was a very powerful and terrifying secret technique. It was conceivable that if Yang Hanwu's cultivation reached a terrifying level, he could easily devour a world if he reached the level of the emperor. It was a forbidden secret technique in divine sense. It was very terrifying. Anya Shen and Yang Hanwu had warned him that such a secret technique was too terrifying and should not be used too much. It would be troublesome if he was targeted by some experts. There were countless experts in the heavens and realms. They did not want to see such a terrifying threat, especially such a secret technique. If they could not obtain it, they would not allow others to have it. After all, it could threaten them. Therefore, if Yang Hanwu used it too much, it would cause a lot of trouble. If Yang Hanwu used such a secret method, it would incur the wrath of the masses. In that case, it would be no laughing matter if all the experts in the universe joined forces to deal with Yang Hanwu. Even if Yang Hanwu was powerful, he might not be able to resist all the experts in the universe. This was Anya Shen's concern. This furnace has a terrifying devouring power that can threaten my life. How is this possible? Huishintu's expression changed. Originally, one of his origins was in the depths of the cave. Although it was his real body, he still had some leeway. Although the origin avatar that was left in the depths of the cave to suppress that thing was not as powerful as his main body, if something happened to his main body, he could use the avatar's origin to be reborn and continue to live. However, the instant this furnace appeared, he had a strong premonition that if he died in this furnace, his origin source embodiment would die as well. This was terrifying. Originally, to him, the death of his true body wasn't scary. As long as nothing happened to his essence incarnation, he could continue to live. The price he had to pay for the death of his true body was only a drop in his cultivation base. With his own talent and that special treasure, he only needed to spend a little. As time passed, he would be able to recover his cultivation. However, the premonition just now was truly terrifying. Once his original body was killed, his source incarnation would also die. This meant that he was truly dead. This was something he could not accept at all. Therefore, he retreated. Huishinta looked at Yang Hongwu's devouring furnace and kept retreating. However, after retreating a few feet, he found that he was blocked by the boundary and had nowhere to retreat. "Didn't you say that I can't kill you? Why are you retreating?" Yang Hongwu sneered. Huishinta didn't speak. He stared at Yang Hongwu. This was the biggest crisis he had ever encountered. If he wasn't careful, he was afraid that he would really die here. "You, kid, if you let me go now, I won't hold it against you for trespassing here. However, if you continue to be stubborn, I can tell you that you will die here." The fiery god diagram wanted to threaten Yang Hongwu and scare him a little. The three of them. However, what kind of person was Yang Hongwu? How could he be scared and deceived so easily? At this moment, Huishinta was already feeling guilty. Obviously, he was afraid of death. Very afraid of death. Yang Hongwu could see this. "Ha, are you afraid now? Weren't you so arrogant just now? Why are you afraid now? Are you regretting it?" Yang Hongwu laughed. "However, it's too late now. If I want to kill you, no one can stop me." As he said that, Yang Hongwu stretched out his hand and pointed at Huishinta. Jingshan finger. This was the Jingshan finger that Yang Hongwu hadn't used for a long time. There was a world of difference between Yang Hongwu's current strength and his previous strength. The power of this finger was naturally incomparable to the previous Yang Hongwu. This finger had already reached the point of returning to its original state. This attack seemed ordinary, but it contained a supreme law and supreme power. In the eyes of others, this finger was like a child's play. It didn't have any power. However, in Huishinta's eyes, this finger was filled with the power to destroy heaven and earth. In the depths of his heart, a terrifying fear was aroused. He knew that this finger couldn't be avoided. This finger seemed to be destined to pierce through his head and his heart. This was the true terrifying aspect of the Jingshan finger. It could directly strike at the heart of the enemy, causing them to feel absolute fear. They would subconsciously believe that they wouldn't be able to block this finger. It was as if they already knew that they wouldn't be able to block this finger. They were destined to die under this finger. This kind of secret technique was truly terrifying. It directly struck at the heart, annihilating one's fighting spirit, annihilating one's life. Is he scared out of his wits? Huishinta saw that Huishinta didn't move. The finger slowly moved towards Huishinta's forehead. However, Huishinta seemed to be stunned and didn't move. Huatang and Anya Shen widened their eyes. They couldn't understand why. This finger didn't even have much power. Huishinta didn't move at all. Was this just a test? Although Huatang and Anya Shen couldn't see the terrifying power contained in this finger, both of them knew that Yang Hongwu definitely wasn't testing this finger. It was impossible that it didn't have any power. Perhaps this was just to confuse Huishinta. They didn't know when the real killing move would appear. It would explode. Crack! A crisp sound was heard. Huishinta's forehead was pierced, and a bloody hole appeared. His entire head was pierced. Light shone through the bloody hole from the other side of his head. Huatang and Anya Shen were dumbfounded. It was unbelievable. This attack didn't seem to contain much power, but but it really pierced through Wushintu's forehead. Chapter 1850. His physical body was destroyed, but his spirit wanted to escape. Moreover, at this moment, the fiery deity diagram had used a special secret technique to protect his spirit. It was not an easy task. Even if he had a powerful secret technique, he could not protect his spirit in front of Yang Hongwu. Yang Hongwu not only had the devouring furnace, but also the secret technique of the soul. You want to escape from me with only your divine soul left? That's impossible. Yang Hongwu smiled gently. How could Yang Hongwu not know what the fiery god too was thinking? With a thought, Yang Hongwu's immense mental strength formed a huge net that shrouded the entire space. He reached out his right hand and grabbed the fiery god too's spirit. You can't kill me. The fiery god diagram's divine soul had been captured, but he was still as arrogant as ever. He knew that Yang Hongwu would never let him go, so he didn't beg for mercy. Most importantly, he believed that his own origin incarnation would still be able to survive after his original body was destroyed. It was just that his cultivation would drop after his original body was killed, but it was nothing. As long as he obtained the treasure, he could cultivate back. Can't kill you? Yang Hongwu said, you still have an incarnation and a trace of your spirit origin, but so what? It's useless even if you have an incarnation. As long as this is your original body, your incarnation will also die if I kill your original body. With that, Yang Hongwu did not give the fiery god Tu any chance. His spirit was instantly devoured and refined by the devouring furnace. Of course, at the most critical moment, Yang Hongwu naturally wouldn't let go of that incarnation, that soul origin, of course. Curse technique, Yin Yang soul locking curse. As Yang Hongwu's cultivation increased, the divine powers derived from the Nine Heavens divine dragon technique became very powerful. Compared to before, it was like heaven and earth. For example, the Yin Yang soul lock curse was a powerful divine technique curse. The so-called soul locking curse was not that simple. As long as one obtained a wisp of a martial artist's soul source, one could directly curse the other party's soul. If he obtained the soul origin of the true body, then he could use the Yin Yang soul lock curse to kill the other party, no matter how many strands of soul origin the other party left behind. That was to say, when he captured more than 60% of the opponent's soul origin, he could use the Yin Yang soul lock spell to kill the opponent completely, as long as the opponent's strength was not far beyond Yang Hongwu's own. Of course, if the opponent's soul origin was protected by a powerful soul treasure, that would be different. The moment Yang Hongwu used the Yin Yang soul lock spell, he sensed the soul origin left behind by the fire god diagram. This soul origin was in a soul jade slip. Moreover, the fire god diagram had left behind a powerful force to suppress something. That was a seed. It was just a seed, but it required 3 people to suppress it. Yang Hongwu was shocked. However, he only caught a glimpse of it before it was isolated. However, this brief moment was enough for Yang Hongwu to find the seed. As for the fire god diagram's soul origin, it was completely destroyed by Yang Hongwu. In the depths of the cavern, Hua Shenwang and Ho Shenquang's faces changed drastically. The fire god diagram's soul jade slip had shattered. The wisp of soul origin in the soul jade slip had completely dissipated, and the incarnation was also dead. The force suppressing the seed had also dissipated. How could the two not be shocked? This meant that the fire god diagram was dead, completely dead. Even the incarnation and the soul origin in the soul jade slip had been completely destroyed. What kind of terrifying cultivation was this? What kind of terrifying ability was this? Not only could he kill the main body, but he could also borrow the power of the soul to kill the incarnation and erase the soul origin. This was the complete annihilation of the fire god diagram, leaving nothing behind. This was a ruthless extermination. There were very few people who could do this, unless the person's cultivation had surpassed the sovereign realm, or if they had a supreme ability or secret art. No matter which of these 2 possibilities it was a huge threat to the 2 of them. Big brother, what should we do now? Third brother is dead, and he didn't even have a chance to send a message. Now, his incarnation and his soul have been completely destroyed. Hua Shenhuang's eyes were filled with fear. Although the fire god diagram's strength was the weakest among the three of them, in reality, he was still a sovereign realm expert. He wasn't much weaker than the other two. In reality, the three of them were only early-stage sovereigns. They hadn't been in the sovereign realm for long. Originally, the three of them had thought that as long as they refined the mysterious seed, their cultivation would advance by leaps and bounds. At the very least, they would be able to reach the mid-stage sovereign realm, or even higher. In that case, their strength would be enough to shake the entire Heavenspan continent. One had to know that the Heavenspan continent was filled with experts, but there weren't many true sovereigns. Out of the 10,000 cities, there were at most 1,000 cities with sovereigns. Flame City had 3 sovereigns, and if they could refine the seed, their cultivation would increase by leaps and bounds. Once they broke through and became mid-stage sovereigns, with 3 mid-stage sovereigns overseeing them, they would have the strength to become one of the 10 great Heavenspan cities. The ancient city of Tongtian was one of the 10 most powerful cities in the Tongtian continent. Every single one of them possessed unparalleled power. It was rumored that the lords of these 10 cities could obtain supreme power, as well as supreme divine techniques to cultivate. Whether this was true or not, they didn't know. Only the lords of the 10 great Heavenspan cities knew. In reality, the lords of the 10 great Heavenspan cities had never shown their faces. Moreover, the 10 great Heavenspan cities had existed a long time ago, and their status had never been shaken. Hua Shenhuang and the other 2 were extremely ambitious. Before they found the mysterious seed, they didn't dare to have any thoughts about the 10 great Heavenspan cities. However, after they found the mysterious seed in the Divine Flame Mountain, they had such great ambitions. Ambition. Chapter 1851. However, they did not know that Yang Hanwu had already sensed their location. There was no way for them to hide. Furthermore, the 2 of them wanted to completely refine the mysterious seed. How could Yang Hanwu let them do as they wished? Their thinking was too simple. Let's go. Yang Hanwu released the formation and said to Huateng and Anya Shenv. You're so powerful, young Master Yang. Tell me, what realm have you reached? Anya Shenv looked at Yang Hanwu and asked. Although Yang Hanwu was only at the Divine Emperor realm, his fighting strength was much stronger than normal. Even if he was a genius, it was impossible for him to challenge someone at a higher realm. Since she met Yang Hanwu, she had never seen Yang Hanwu lose to anyone. This was because he had never met anyone who could defeat him. This was the most frightening thing. If a person had never been defeated, then he was truly terrifying, extremely terrifying. Divine Emperor Realm. Yang Hanwu said, in fact, my cultivation realm is not as good as yours. Are you kidding? Anya Shenv asked. Yes, young master. Your cultivation realm can't be just at the Divine Emperor realm. Even experts at the Sovereign realm are no match for you. How can you be just a Divine Emperor realm warrior? Huateng said, I don't believe it. Young master, your cultivation realm should have reached the Sovereign realm a long time ago. You must have deliberately hidden your cultivation realm, right? Huateng didn't believe it either. After all, it was impossible for a divine emperor to defeat a sovereign realm expert so easily unless he was at the same level as the sovereign realm. Even though a genius could challenge someone of a higher realm, it was impossible for a divine emperor realm expert to kill a sovereign realm expert. It was simply impossible. Even if the other party had a supreme treasure, it would still be impossible for them to do such a thing. There was a gap of 2 big realms between the sovereign realm and the divine emperor realm. At that level, a gap of 1 small realm was difficult to overcome. But now, there was a gap of 2 big realms, which was simply impossible to exist. Therefore, Huateng didn't believe it either. It's up to you to believe it or not. Yang Hanwu said, alright, let's go look for the 2 brothers of the fire god diagram, Hua Shenhuang and Hua Shenhuang. The 3 of them are the ancestors of Flame City. Rumor has it that they've existed since Flame City was founded. Their strength has reached an unimaginable level. They've already reached the ruler realm. Young master, you killed Fire God too, you're one of them. Hushan Kuang and Hushan Kuang are even stronger than the Fire God diagram. Young master, you must be careful. They're stronger than you, and there are two of them. Don't be careless, said Hoteng. Of course, I know that. You don't have to worry. Yang Hanwu looked at Hoteng. This fellow had now become somewhat timid. This fellow had not been so afraid when he had brought Yang Hanwu to the Divine Flame Mountain. If Hoteng knew what Yang Hanwu was thinking, he would probably grumble in his heart. After all, who wouldn't be afraid in the face of two ruler realm experts? Although his cultivation was decent, he was still a far cry from a ruler realm expert. He was just a small captain in Flame City. His strength wasn't that great. Hoteng is right. Even if you can kill Fire God too, you can't be careless. After all, Fire God too is the weakest among the three brothers. Moreover, he must have been careless. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been able to kill him so easily, said Anya Shenv. Yang Hanwu nodded. This was the truth. If the fiery deity diagram hadn't been too careless, it wouldn't have fallen into his array formation without a sound. Although Yang Hanwu was very confident in his array formation, he wasn't a sovereign-level powerhouse, so he naturally wasn't confident in his array formation. He didn't know how strong a ruler realm expert was. If they were prepared, would they be able to discover his formation? If the other party was prepared, Yang Hanwu might not be able to easily trap them in his formation. When a ruler realm expert reached the ruler realm, they could instantly tear through space and escape. Although it was slower than Yang Hanwu's void travel technique, it was still very fast. They're actually heading straight for us, Hushan Kuang frowned when he noticed that Yang Hanwu and the other two's auras were getting closer. Big brother, what should we do? I'm afraid our position has been exposed. We're at a critical moment now. We can't relax. Hushan Huang's eyes were filled with worry. They were already at the final stage of refining the mysterious seed. If they failed at the final stage, then they would be in trouble. If they failed, everything would be for naught. If they failed, the seed would escape in an instant. At that time, they wouldn't have any more chances. This seed was very mysterious and contained a very strong power. They were here to refine this mysterious seed and seize the power within it. They had a premonition that if they could refine this seed and seize the power within it, they would be able to possess the power of the ruler realm. They would have the strength to dominate the sky-reaching continent. However, at this critical moment, Yang Hanwu and the other two had barged in. What was worse was that the third of the three, Hushan Tu, had already been killed. The three of them were the progenitors of Flame City. They were very close to each other. Now that Hushan Kuang and Hushan Huang had been killed, their hatred for Hushan Kuang was unimaginable. However, for the sake of this seed, they didn't make a move. They wanted to refine this seed before Yang Hanwu and the other two arrived. However, they had underestimated Yang Hanwu's speed. Along the way, they set up many formations and restrictions. These formations and restrictions were set up from the very beginning. These formations and restrictions were very powerful. Ordinary sovereigns would have a hard time breaking through these formations and restrictions. It would take a lot of effort. However, these formations and restrictions were so weak in front of Yang Hanwu. They were like pieces of paper that were broken in an instant. They didn't have the effect of stopping them at all. This was what Hushan Kuang was worried about. Big brother, they're already very close to here. At this speed, they'll reach here in less than half an hour. We'll need at least an hour to refine this seed. We won't make it in time, Hushan Huang said anxiously. That little bastard, how could he be so fast? Chapter 1852. If that's the case, we don't have to worry at all. Hushan Huang said, we just have to focus on refining the seed. We can't be careless. Hushan Kuang shook his head and said, at this point, we can't let our guard down even if there's a slight possibility. You're right, big brother. Hushan Huang said, but he didn't think much of it. After all, the formation couldn't be broken so easily. At the very least, it was impossible to break it within 2 hours. However, the trio's speed seemed to have exceeded their expectations. If they didn't slow down, it wouldn't take them 2 hours. However, the closer they got, the stronger the formation became. Let's see if they've slowed down. After a while, Huishan said anxiously, "Big brother, something's wrong." Their speed didn't slow down at all. Instead, it's getting faster. If this continues, they'll find us soon. Don't worry. Huishan was also nervous, but he comforted his brother. At this point, Yang Hanwu had already found Huishan and Huishan location. If he hadn't refined the power of the fire god diagram, Yang Hanwu wouldn't have found them so easily. After all, the spiritual qi in this space was very strange. Even a powerful divine ability like his Dharma Eye of Annihilation couldn't detect far. However, Huishan II and the other two were different. Although they had not completely refined the mysterious seed, they had at least refined a part of it. This mysterious seed was the source of the spiritual energy in this space, or rather, the source of the divine fire mountain's spiritual energy. The reason why the spiritual energy here was so strong and limited their vision was because of the special spiritual energy produced by the mysterious seed. The trio was able to cover the entire divine fire mountain with their spiritual energy because they had refined a part of the mysterious seed's power. The others couldn't. Yang Hanwu couldn't explore the depths of the divine fire mountain before, but after refining the fire god diagram's origin, he could explore the entire mountain and find Huishan and Huishan current location. It's here. After a while, Yang Hanwu, Huateng, and Anya Shen arrived in front of a stone wall. "Young master, there's no path here. How could it be here?" Huateng asked in confusion. "Yes, there's no path here. How could it be here?" Anya Shen frowned, but he knew that Yang Hanwu wouldn't lie. If Yang Hanwu was hit by the attack, it would be a fatal blow. Yang Hanwu's reaction wasn't slow. Just as the light was about to pierce through Yang Hanwu's forehead, Yang Hanwu disappeared. His figure instantly disappeared from where he was standing. That strong beam of light bombarded the wall, instantly creating a bottomless hole. The power of this attack was too terrifying. The stone wall was incomparably hard, but under the attack of this strong light, it was actually so terrifying. "Damn it!" A voice rang out. He actually dodged it. This little bastard's strength is indeed not to be underestimated. However, if it wasn't for the fact that I couldn't unleash my full strength, this little bastard wouldn't have survived. "You can't catch that little bastard, but you can't escape." As he spoke, Fire God Huang's figure appeared. He reached out his hand and grabbed towards Anya Goddess and Huateng. Huateng and Anya Shen's faces changed. They weren't strong enough to stop Fire God Huang. Bang! When Anya Shen and Huateng were desperate and ready to fight to the death, a light screen appeared in front of them and blocked Fire God Huang's hand. "Master! Little bastard, it's you." Huishan Huang stared at Yang Hanwu. That young man looked like a divine emperor, but he was terrifyingly strong. He could sense that Huishan Huang was the one who had killed Huishan Huang. Huishan Huang could sense Huishan Huang's qi. "You're the fire god diagram's brother, right?" Yang Hanwu said. "You're not bad. You're stronger than the fire god diagram. But that's all. If you could use your full strength, I might not be able to defeat you. But because you were too greedy, you wanted the three of you to refine the fire god diagram. Refining that supreme treasure caused your cultivation to be greatly reduced. That's why you all died at my hands. You won't be an exception." "Wah, little bastard, what big words you have. I'm going to eat you alive." Fire God Huang was going crazy from anger as he roared. Fire God Huang was the one with the heaviest karma among the three brothers. He liked to devour geniuses with great talent. It had become a habit of his. Therefore, every once in a while, he would leave Flame City and go to other cities to find geniuses and devour them. It wasn't just because of his hobby, it was also because he cultivated a special demonic technique. However, this demonic technique had a flaw. The most serious flaw was that once he was enraged, he would lose his mind and turn into a mindless demon that only knew how to kill and eat people. He had been suppressing it all this time. But now, because he needed a part of his strength to refine the mysterious seed, he was about to lose his mind after being enraged by Yan Hongwu. He became crazy. His eyes turned red. His entire body changed. His body became huge and his face became ferocious. Long fangs grew out of his mouth. He had turned into a man-eating demon. Not good. Ho Shenquang, who was still focused on refining the seed, noticed this scene and his expression changed. He knew about his second brother's situation. If it weren't for the fact that he cultivated demonic arts, there wouldn't be such a big flaw. He originally thought that after refining a portion of the mysterious seed's power, the three of them would be completely fine. Chapter 1853. Fire God Huang, don't fall into his trap. Calm down, calm down. Fire God Huang shouted, hoping to rouse the Fire God Huang's consciousness. Once the Fire God Huang was bewitched by Yan Hongwu, it would be troublesome. At that time, both of them would die here, not to mention revenge. Even if they weren't killed by Yan Hongwu, they would die from the backlash of the seed's power. However, the Fire God Huang was completely enraged by Yan Hongwu. When Fire God Huang tried to rouse it, the seed's power was already taken away. Fire God Huang was under a lot of pressure. He had to use all his strength to suppress the backlash of the seed. He didn't even have the strength to speak. At this moment, Fire God Huang's heart was filled with bitterness, but there was nothing he could do. Little bastard, go to hell. The Fire God Huang's strength increased tremendously after extracting the power from the mysterious seed. As a result, Yang Hongwu felt a lot of pressure. Yang Hongwu squinted his eyes, trying to stay alert. He didn't expect the Fire God Huang to completely lose his mind and ignore the mysterious seed. Yang Hongwu was very surprised. At this moment, the Fire God Huang gave him a lot of pressure. If they were to meet force with force, he wouldn't be able to resist. However, Yang Hongwu wasn't stupid enough to meet force with force at this moment. That was because Yang Hongwu had already sensed how shocking the power of the mysterious seed was. Now that it had lost the suppression of the Fire God Yellow, the mysterious seed was on the verge of exploding. It could break free at any moment and directly devour Ho Shenquang. At that time, the mysterious seed's first target would be Fire God Huang and Fire God Huang, not the three of them. Therefore, Yang Hongwu only needed to stall for time and wait for the mysterious seed to backfire on Ho Shenquang and Ho Shenhuang. That would be the time for him to reap the benefits of the battle. Yang Hongwu wanted this mysterious seed very much because the fortune divine tree in Yang Hongwu's body had already sent out a message. This seed seemed to be of a higher level than the fortune divine tree. This shocked Yang Hongwu. He didn't know the origin of a higher level seed than the fortune divine tree, but he was sure that it was a very powerful life form. Even if he didn't give it to the fortune divine tree, his strength would rise to an unimaginable level if he could refine and subdue it. Yang Hongwu was well aware of how powerful the fortune divine tree was. The fortune divine tree could directly absorb energy from the void and produce fortune chi. Compared to the fortune divine tree, if a seed of a higher level was cultivated, how powerful would it be? It wasn't hard. This meant that it would not be an easy task to germinate this seed. It would also be extremely difficult to refine it. Perhaps this seed was an extremely powerful being. Once it broke out of its cocoon and truly awakened, he would not be able to stop it at all. Looking at the Fire God Huang's attack, Yang Hongwu used his mind to wrap Anya Shen and Huateng, and they disappeared from the spot. This time, seeing that his attack had missed and Yang Hongwu had appeared in another place, the Fire God Yellow Emperor was so angry that he cried out, "Little bastard, don't run if you have the guts. I'll eat you. Idiot." Yang Hongwu replied indifferently. The Fire God Huang was going crazy. He chased after Yang Hongwu, but he couldn't catch up with him. Yang Hongwu's void travel secret technique was too strange. The fire god Huang couldn't capture his aura. He could only be anxious. His eyes were filled with madness as he completely entered the Tao of demons. His entire being was filled with demonic qi. At this moment, the mysterious seed's power was getting stronger. Fire god Huang couldn't suppress it alone. At this time, they were already forced into a dead end. "Kid, let's die together." Hushan Kuang was infuriated. He released his suppression on the mysterious seed. In an instant, the mysterious seed released a terrifying qi. It seemed like the entire divine flame mountain was about to be crushed. In an instant, the sky collapsed and the earth cracked. The void was torn apart by the power of the mysterious seed. Yang Hongwu's face changed. Fire god Kuang knew that he couldn't suppress it anymore. Since he was going to die anyway, he wanted to drag Yang Hongwu and the other two down with him. "Damn it, this bastard." Yang Hongwu's face changed. At this moment, fire god Huang was struck by a powerful force and was sent flying. A bloody hole appeared on his huge body. Such a terrifying attack didn't kill the fire god Huang, but it woke him up. "Big brother, save me." When he saw the mysterious seed flying towards him, the fire god Yellow was terrified to the extreme. Now that he had regained consciousness, he knew how terrifying the seed was. Now that the seed had lost their suppression, the power it could unleash was too terrifying. Back then, the three of them had paid a huge price to suppress the seed. Now that it was released, it would be too difficult to suppress it again. Moreover, they were already exhausted. Especially fire god Huang himself, he was seriously injured and had no strength left to fight back. He had no strength left to fight back. "Shut up!" Fire god Kuang roared. "It's all your fault. If not for you, I would have refined the seed." Hearing fire god Huang's voice, fire god Kuang gritted his teeth. If not for him, he would have the chance to refine the seed. Once he did, his strength would rise to an unimaginable level. At that time, not to mention Yang Hanwu and the other two, even the heaven-reaching ruler would have the confidence to fight against him. He would have the confidence to fight against the heaven-reaching ruler. Unfortunately, it was too late for regrets. However, even though he was furious, fire god Huang was still his younger brother. He couldn't just watch him die like that. Moreover, as long as the fire god Yellow didn't die, they still had a chance of survival. The three of them had once cultivated a powerful combination technique. When the two of them combined, their strength would increase by several times. This was also the reason why they were able to suppress the mysterious seed. "Let's go!" Huo Shenquang instantly appeared in front of Hua Shenhuang and pulled him up, dodging the mysterious seed's attack. However, fire god Kuang was also grazed by the terrifying power. A piece of his arm was scraped off, turning it into a bloody mess. Yang Hanwu took a deep breath as he watched. Chapter 1854. You want to leave? It's impossible. Your only chance now is to join hands with us to resist that thing. That way, you'll have a chance of survival. If you want to escape, it's simply a pipe dream. This space has already been sealed. Moreover, your bodies have been infected by that thing's aura. You won't be able to leave this place unless you suppress it. Huo Shenquang snorted after hearing Huoteng's words. Although he hated Yang Hanwu and the other two to the core, he had no choice but to rope in Yang Hanwu and the other two. If they wanted to survive, the five of them joining hands was their only chance to survive. At this moment, Huo Shenquang and Huo Shenhuang's injuries were not light. If Yang Hanwu and the other two left, they would definitely die under the attack of that thing. Therefore, no matter how much Huo Shenquang and Huo Shenquang hated Yang Hongwu's group of three, they still wanted to rope Yang Hanwu in for their own lives. After all, this was their only chance. They didn't want to die in this situation. For a martial artist, the longer they lived, the more they feared death. This was very normal. "Young master, they must be lying. You can't believe them," Huoteng said. You'll know if they're lying or not. Even if we die in the hands of that thing, you won't have a good time either. At most, we'll die together." Hu Shenhuang escaped from death and naturally didn't want to die. However, he wasn't a fool. He knew what his big brother was planning. Yang Hanwu and the other two said. Yang Hanwu sneered and said, "You guys think too much. If I want to leave, no one can stop me. It's just a seed, we don't even know what it is. Even if it's a complete form, I'm not afraid." What a boastful tone. Hu Shenhuang said. He despised Yang Hongwu's arrogant words. Who didn't know how to boast? This was only a seed. If it could truly grow up, how terrifying would it be? How empty would it be? Hu Shenhuang didn't even dare to think about it. Just a single seed had already forced them to such a state. If it was the complete form, who knew how terrifying it would be? Who doesn't know how to boast? If you can suppress this seed, I will admire you. Hu Shenhuang said. Ha, what's the use of your admiration? Yang Hanwu laughed. If you can refine that seed, I'll recognize you as my master and let you order me around. What's wrong with that? Fire Shenhuang suddenly said. Yang Hanwu narrowed his eyes. Hu Shenhuang and Hu Shenhuang were extremely strong. Even though they were heavily injured right now, their strength was still rather frightening. If they were to recover to their peak state, they would definitely be sovereign-level powerhouses. If he could keep them as his slaves, they would be of great help to him. Of course, if he could bring them out of the God domain, it would be very easy for him to become the ruler of the entire God domain. In the God domain, Yang Hanwu had never heard of sovereign-level powerhouses. Yang Hanwu had never even heard of emperor-level powerhouses. Therefore, it would be best if he could subdue these two powerhouses. Of course, Yang Hanwu also knew that these two powerhouses wouldn't be so easily subdued. After all, they were sovereign-level powerhouses. It was also possible that these two powerhouses wanted him to take action instead of running away. After all, the two of them had no way to contend against that guy. This mysterious seed. The power of this mysterious seed was too terrifying, too terrifying. For Yang Hanwu, this seed gave him a lot of pressure. This seed was extremely tempting to Yang Hanwu. After all, the power contained in this seed was too strong. Yang Hanwu guessed that this seed was probably the origin seed of a great universe, the origin seed of the flame world. Or perhaps, it was the seed of a powerful divine tree of fire attribute. If he could subdue and refine it and integrate it into his common people's great world, it would definitely raise his common people's great world by a level. However, the possibility of this was very low. Completely devouring and refining this seed was already a difficult task, let alone integrating it completely into his common people's great world. The increase in difficulty wasn't just a little bit, but a lot. The strength of the two of you is passable. If you were to become my servants, you would be barely passable, Yang Hanwu said calmly. Hu Shenhuang and Hua Shenhuang were furious when they heard this. They were both sovereign-level powerhouses. Even in the sky-reaching continent, they could become an overlord. How could they not be furious when he said that they could only barely pass as his slaves? However, they were both people at their level. Naturally, they could keep their composure. They were both old foxes. Although they were furious at Yang Hongwu's words, they didn't show it. In fact, the two of them knew very well that if the other party could easily refine and subdue this seed, his strength would be extremely terrifying. His background would definitely not be small. If that was the case, it wouldn't be unacceptable for them to become his slaves. After all, they were very clear about the power of this mysterious seed. If Yang Hanwu could easily subdue it, he would definitely be extremely terrifying. Not to mention his talent, even his background would definitely be extremely powerful. At least, in their opinion, if the other party could easily subdue this seed, his strength would definitely be at the mid-sovereign level, or even the late sovereign level. Moreover, the youth in front of them was very young. The two of them knew very well that when they were at his age, how could their cultivation be so terrifying? Compared to Yang Hanwu, the difference between them was like heaven and earth. Moreover, his cultivation was obviously at the divine emperor realm. At their level, they could tell that Yang Hanwu didn't hide his cultivation. Alright, if you can refine this seed, we'll become your slaves. What do you think? Hu Shenquang agreed again. He also knew that if Yang Hanwu could refine this seed, it would mean that he would completely control the Divine Fire Mountain. In fact, the entire Divine Fire Mountain was a part of this seed. If he could refine this seed, the entire Divine Fire Mountain would be under his control. At that time, it would be impossible for them to go back on their words. At that time, their lives would also be in Yang Hongwu's hands. Chapter 1855. However, once they left the Divine Fire Mountain, they would have a chance. However, no matter what, the most important thing for them now was to get through the crisis in front of them. If they couldn't get through it, only death would await them. If they lost their lives, everything else would be fake and meaningless. Therefore, as long as Yang Hanwu agreed to deal with the mysterious seed, it would be the best thing. Because in this way, he would have a chance to survive. If not, he would have no chance at all. This was the most terrible thing that he didn't want to see the most. Master, I think it's better not to take the risk. Huateng was very worried. He looked at the mysterious seed floating in the air. The terrifying power that burst out seemed to be able to easily destroy everything. This kind of power was too terrifying. That's right. If we can leave, I think it's better to leave first. Although this treasure is powerful, it's difficult to subdue and refine it. Anya Shenv also nodded. He's right. Because your bodies have absorbed the spiritual qi here, you can't escape. This seed has already sealed this side of the world. As long as you devour the spiritual qi of the Divine Fire Mountain, you can't leave. Of course, I can leave, but you can't. So now, the only chance is to refine this seed. Yan Hanwu said. He felt the power of the mysterious seed. Using the power of the Dharma Eye of Annihilation, he sensed the situation in this side of the world. He found that except for the special cultivation method that he cultivated, he could refine the spiritual qi of the spiritual qi. However, Huateng, Anya Shenv, Hu Shenquang, and Hu Shenhuang were all restricted and couldn't leave this side of the world. If they forced themselves to leave, they would be directly stripped of their vitality and die. This. Master, are you serious? Huateng asked. Anya Shenv also looked at Yang Hanwu, not believing what he said. After all, it was too mysterious. It was just absorbing and refining some spiritual qi, but they were restricted and couldn't leave. It was too unbelievable. Of course it's not fake. Yan Hanwu said. At this moment, that seed turned into a ball of light and flew towards Yan Hanwu and the others. Its speed was extremely fast, and it arrived in front of them in the blink of an eye. Be careful. Anya Shenv was shocked when he saw the light. If he was hit by it, he would be seriously injured even if he didn't die. Just now, he saw that Hu Shenquang was injured badly just by being grazed by the light. What would happen if he was hit? How terrifying was that? Although she trusted Yang Hanwu a lot, there was still a precedent. Hu Shenquang's injuries were the best proof. Humph, Yang Hanwu snorted coldly and punched out. If a tiger doesn't show its power, do you really think I'm a sick cat? This punch exploded with a powerful force, bombarding the light. In an instant, the light was scattered, and the seed was sent flying. Hu Shenquang was dumbfounded when he saw this scene. He was very clear about the terrifying power of the seed. However, Yang Hanwu was able to send it flying with a single punch. This was too unbelievable, too unbelievable. You? Who are you? In fact, Yang Hanwu couldn't believe his punch just now. He didn't expect that he would be able to send the mysterious seed flying with a single punch. The power of this mysterious seed was definitely very strong. It seemed like his strength could restrain this mysterious seed. Yang Hanwu sensed that the power of law contained in this seed was of the fire attribute. Although he also had the Red Lotus karmic fire, the power of the Red Lotus karmic fire couldn't be higher than the power of the seed. Therefore, his punch that sent the seed flying probably wasn't the power of the Red Lotus karmic fire, but another power in his body. The power of the Nine Heavens Divine Dragon Technique? Yang Hongwu thought for a moment. The possibility wasn't very high. Yang Hongwu channeled the power of the Nine Heavens Divine Dragon technique, condensing a large net and grabbing towards the seed. If it was the power of the Nine Heavens Divine Dragon technique, this seed would be able to avoid his net even if it couldn't be caught. However, the reality disappointed Yang Hongwu. This seed exploded with a ray of light. This ray of light instantly shattered the large net. If it wasn't the power of the Nine Heavens Divine Dragon technique, then why was he able to disperse the attack of the seed so easily? Could it be the power of his physical body? Yang Hongwu's eyes lit up. The power of his physical body. Perhaps, it was really possible. The cultivation technique he cultivated was very special. Moreover, after the creation's sacred tree devoured the power of creation, his physical body had been tempered. Now, his physical body was definitely very strong. Moreover, more importantly, his physical body contained an ancient power of law. This ancient power came from the special and powerful power sealed deep within his body. It had been released once. This time, the release of power made his physical body stronger. Stronger. In fact, this was also the reason why Yang Hongwu wasn't worried. Because when he was in a life-or-death situation, that power would erupt. You guys be careful here. Don't let Ho Shenquang and the others seize the opportunity. I'll go and collect that thing. Yang Hongwu turned to Anya Shenv and said. You have to be careful. The goddess of the dark night wanted to persuade Yang Hongwu, but she knew that it was very difficult to change his mind. Yang Hongwu wasn't a fool. He must have his reasons if he dared to go there. He wouldn't do it if he wasn't sure of the result. If he wasn't confident, he wouldn't take risks easily. Now that Yang Hongwu dared to do this, he must have enough confidence to take action. Big brother, why don't we capture that woman? She has a high position in that kid's heart. Seeing that Yang Hongwu was focused on the seed, and that mysterious seed seemed to be a little afraid of Yang Hongwu. It didn't dare to act rashly against Yang Hongwu. This made Hua Shenhuang very worried. Perhaps, he could really collect and refine that mysterious seed. In that case, the two of them only needed to capture that woman to make Yang Hongwu hesitate. Once Yang Hongwu succeeded in refining the seed, he could also force Yang Hongwu to hand over the mysterious seed. Once he had control of the seed, he could leave this place safely. Chapter 1856. Ho Shenquang hesitated for a moment and shook his head. It wasn't that simple. If the other party dared to be so relaxed, it meant that he had enough confidence. If he didn't, he wouldn't have dared to act so boldly. It could even be said that he had left his back open to the two of them. There were only two possibilities for someone who dared to do so. One was that he had absolute confidence, and the other was that he was naive and daring. Obviously, Yang Hongwu wasn't the second one. Hence, it could only be the first possibility. Come here. Yang Hongwu walked towards the seed step by step. This kid, is he courting death? Previously, the three of them joined forces to suppress the seed before it fully awakened. Now that the mysterious seed's consciousness had fully awakened, he dared to act so boldly. Although Yang Hongwu's strength was pretty good, Ho Shenquang didn't dare to act so boldly. The two of them did not believe that he alone was stronger than the three of them back then. This was almost impossible. However, Yang Hongwu did it. Yang Hongwu approached the mysterious seed step by step. Unexpectedly, the mysterious seed was retreating bit by bit, as if it was afraid of Yang Hongwu. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. Big brother, is this real? Hua Shenhuang murmured. I don't believe it either, but this shouldn't be an illusion. Ho Shenquang took a deep breath. Everything in front of them was real, not an illusion. Where did this kid come from? It's too terrifying. Yang Hongwu disappeared from his spot and appeared in front of the ball of light. He reached out his hand and grabbed the ball of light, which was the mysterious seed. At this moment, the mysterious seed was struggling madly. Sure enough, such a domineering power. Yang Hanwu sensed the power of this seed and was shocked. The power contained in this seed was not ordinary. It was the power of the supreme fire attribute origin world. This was a fire attribute world seed, a world seed. However, this seed was different from the other world seeds. However, this world seed hadn't matured yet. It should be a seed condensed after the fall of an unparalleled Almighty. The law contained within this seed was extremely powerful. However, due to some special reasons, it had been sealed and had not been completely released. Yang Hanwu suspected that the reason why the seed was afraid of him was because of the special power that was sealed in his body. It was a powerful power that he didn't even know about. It was as if this power had faintly interacted with this seed in some way. Could it be that he had bullied the owner of this world seed in his previous life? Yang Hanwu only thought about it. Whether it was true or not, no one knew. It was just a guess. The question now was how to refine the seed and make it submit. In fact, However, Yang Hanwu discovered that this seed was extremely resistant. It was completely unable to merge into his common people's great world. Devouring furnace, come out. Yang Hanwu thought about it. Since he couldn't merge it into the common people's great world, he would refine it completely. Yang Hanwu instantly took out the devouring furnace. He threw the seed into the devouring furnace and used the power of the devouring furnace to devour the seed. However, Yang Hanwu was disappointed. Although the seed was caught by Yang Hanwu, it didn't change in the slightest in the devouring furnace. It couldn't be refined at all. At this moment, Huishan Kuang and Huishan Kuang's jaws dropped. It was too powerful, too domineering. This mysterious light seed, which was incomparably arrogant in front of them and had almost killed them, erupted with an astonishing aura, but Yang Hanwu was not affected at all. He actually dared to try and refine the seed. It was too terrifying, too powerful. Big brother, what should we do now? That kid has really trapped that thing. Hua Shenwang said. Originally, Hua Shenwang and Ho Shenquang had wanted to wait until Yang Hanwu and the mysterious seed were both injured before charging forward to reap the benefits. However, they hadn't expected that the seed's aura would be so terrifying that they couldn't even get close to it. Yang Hanwu, on the other hand, however, he acted as if nothing had happened. This contrast was too great, so much so that their calculations fell through. Let's go. We'll think of a way to leave this place. Ho Shenquang thought about it and fled into the distance. Big brother, are we really going to give up on our bodies? Hua Shenwang thought about it and asked. Now that the mysterious seed was suppressed, they could indeed leave. However, the price was to give up on their bodies and escape with only a wisp of primordial spirit. Moreover, it was only a wisp of primordial spirit. It meant that they wouldn't be able to retain their sovereign realm cultivation after they left. They would be revived in Flame City and their strength would be by Butsuan. They could only recover to the Emperor realm at most. Moreover, they would never be able to improve. In other words, their cultivation would forever drop by a realm. They would be stuck at the Emperor realm for the rest of their lives. For a powerful cultivator, especially a sovereign realm cultivator, this was worse than death. Could it be that you really want to become a servant? Compared to cultivation, freedom was still very important. Is there no other way? Hua Shenwang asked. There is no other way. I think we can capture that woman. That kid looks young. That woman seems to be very important to him. As long as we capture that woman, there should be a chance. Hua Shenwang said. Ho Shenquang hesitated. This was very risky. At this moment, Yang Hanwu discovered that he was unable to completely refine this world seed, so he directly sealed it up. He used the common people's world and the scroll of fortune to seal it up. This was a huge price to pay. This meant that before he completely dealt with the world seed, he wouldn't be able to use the power of the Great Life Seal and the Scroll of Fortune. The Scroll of Fortune was fine. However, the Great Life Seal was very important to Yang Hanwu. His strongest battle strength was relying on the Great Life Seal. Now that the seal was restricted, his strength would be reduced by half. Chapter 1857. When Ho Shenquang and Hua Shenhuang saw Yang Hanwu walking towards them, they knew that they had lost their chance. They had missed their only chance. Congratulations, young master, for obtaining the supreme treasure. Ho Shenquang quickly said when he saw Yang Hanwu walking towards them. Is that so? Aren't you going to take this opportunity to attack me? Yang Hanwu looked at the two of them and said. Yang Hanwu naturally knew what the two of them were thinking. They definitely had their own ideas, but they had yet to take action. After all, both of them were injured and weren't at their peak. If they were at their peak, they would have already taken action. We wouldn't dare, we wouldn't dare. Young master, you must be joking. Ho Shenquang quickly smiled apologetically. What kind of joke was this? Although he had some ideas in his heart, he didn't dare to take action. After all, Yang Hongwu's strength was there for all to see. Moreover, no one knew if he had any powerful trump cards that he hadn't used yet. If there was a slight mistake, they might fall here. This was something that they didn't want to happen. Initially, Ho Shenquang planned to abandon his cultivation and physical body and escape from here. However, there was no need for that now. They clearly knew that Huo Shenta's soul was destroyed when Yang Hanwu and the other two killed him. His body was destroyed along with his spirit origin. There was no possibility of him being resurrected. Therefore, the two of them naturally didn't dare to try again now that they had lost their chance. Moreover, even if they succeeded, they wouldn't be able to improve their cultivation anymore. The two of them weren't too willing. After all, no one wanted to fall from a high and mighty overlord to a mere emperor. This kind of difference was not something that an ordinary person could bear. If they could still survive and their cultivation did not drop, the only thing they would lose was their freedom and their high and mighty status. They would not have absolute authority. In fact, the difference would not be that big. It was just that they would not be able to do anything. There was an additional person above them, a person who could control their life and death. In addition, they were the high and mighty overlords, the old ancestors of Flame City. It was even possible that their status would become even higher, and his strength might become even more powerful. This might be an opportunity. Of course, that was what Ho Shenquang thought. However, Hua Shenhuang was different. He didn't want someone to control his life and death. However, he didn't have the chance to resist. He didn't dare to resist. He was also afraid of death. However, his ambition was much greater than Ho Shenquang's. Although Ho Shenquang was willing to become Yang Hongwu's servant, Hua Shenhuang didn't have such thoughts. He had no choice. He wanted to make a fuss about it. Of this place. He had a secret technique. This secret technique could transfer contracts. Initially, he was planning to use the secret technique to acquire a supreme godly flame. However, it turned out that he could use the secret technique to transfer his slave contract, allowing someone else to take his place and become Yang Hongwu's servant without him knowing. It was his only chance to not become Yang Hongwu's servant. Ho Shenquang, his big brother, would become Yang Hongwu's servant. His third brother, Huo Shentu, was dead. Ho Shenquang would become the sole overlord of Flame City, a supreme existence. Although Ho Shenquang wasn't dead, after becoming someone else's servant, what did he do? What right did he have to control Flame City? How could he become the overlord of Flame City? Ho Shenquang didn't know what Hua Shenhuang was thinking. Yang Hanwu didn't know either. Now, it's time for you to fulfill your promise. Yang Hanwu looked at the two and said indifferently. I. Ho Shenquang hesitated. Before he could finish, Hua Shenhuang spoke. Young master, I'm willing. Hua Shenhuang took the initiative to offer a strand of his soul to form a servant contract. Once the contract was signed, it meant that he would become Yang Hongwu's servant. His life and death would be under Yang Hongwu's control. Ho Shenquang was surprised by Hua Shenhuang's initiative. He knew his brother very well, but he didn't expect him to take the initiative to sign a contract and become Yang Hongwu's servant. It was too unbelievable. Yang Hanwu was surprised too. Ho Shenquang might be unwilling, but he wasn't stupid enough to go against him and give up his life. Hua Shenhuang, on the other hand, might be afraid of death, but he wouldn't sign a contract so easily. Yang Hanwu had already made his choice. If Hua Shenhuang didn't know what was good for him, he would kill him directly. However, Hua Shenhuang agreed to it. It was too shocking. Yang Hanwu didn't have any intention of rejecting the contract. In that instant, Yang Hanwu successfully signed the contract. He felt that he had control over Hua Shenhuang's life and death. If Hua Shenhuang dared to do anything to him, he would kill him. He would kill him completely. Very good. A wise man submits to circumstances. Yang Hanwu nodded. This is the best choice you've made. Big brother, I've already signed the contract. It's your turn. Hua Shenhuang looked at his big brother and said. You? Hua Shenhuang sighed. Although he was unwilling, he knew that it was too late. He had already made up his mind. Now, he had to sign the contract. He was a sovereign realm expert, but he was going to become someone's servant. From this point on, he was very unwilling to accept this. However, since things had already come to this point, there was no possibility of going back on his word. Thus, Hua Shenhuang signed the contract and became Yang Hongwu's servant. Under the witness of the Great Tao, Yang Hanwu had control over Hua Shenhuang's life and death. Congratulations, young master. Huading said. Huading knew that his status was going to be lowered this time. They were both servants, but Hua Shenhuang were much stronger than him. He might not have an easy time in the future. Congratulations. You've gained 2 capable subordinates. The goddess of the dark night was also happy for Yang Hanwu. Now that they had signed the contract, there was no possibility for them to resist. She wasn't worried because this meant that Yang Hanwu would become an overlord in the sky-reaching continent in a short time. In a short period of time, he would become a powerful force, Flame City. Moreover, he could use Flame City to grow stronger. This was something that Anya Shenv was very happy to see. Yang Hanwu nodded. Chapter 1858. The Divine Flame Mountain was born because of the mysterious World Seed. Now that Yang Hanwu had sealed the World Seed, the mysterious suppression of the Divine Flame Mountain had disappeared. Yang Hanwu had already noticed this. However, even if the mysterious suppression disappeared, he could refine the entire Divine Flame Mountain as long as he refined the World Seed. In fact, the mysterious power of the Divine Flame Mountain didn't disappear. It was just that it had merged with the Divine Flame Mountain and didn't erupt. Now, the Divine Flame Mountain had become even more violent. The spiritual energy had become even more violent. The group of 5 had to be careful as they walked on the Divine Flame Mountain. Even though Hua Shenhuang and Hua Huang were sovereigns, they didn't dare to be careless even if they had fully recovered from their injuries. However, the group still managed to leave the Divine Flame Mountain without any mishaps. Before leaving, Hua Shenhuang took one last look at the majestic ancient mountain that reached the clouds. His heart was filled with emotions. This ancient mountain carried too many of his hopes, but now, it was all fake. There was no more chance. He sighed in his heart. There was a time when one's ambition had to be in line with one's strength and luck. Otherwise, if one's luck and strength were not strong enough, it would only benefit others in the end. It would be completely meaningless. Hua Shenhuang was the best proof of that. The 3 brothers had done everything they could to obtain the seed, but in the end, it didn't land in his hands. Out of the 3 brothers, 1 had died, and the other 2 had been reduced to servants of others. From sovereigns, they had become servants of others. This change was too sudden, and he couldn't get used to it at all. Big brother, let's go. What are you looking at? Hua Shenhuang asked. Hua Shenhuang sighed, but didn't say anything. On the other hand, Yang Hanwu didn't mind. Of course, he knew that the Divine Flame Mountain wasn't as simple as he thought. After leaving the Divine Flame Mountain, the World Seed's power seemed to be suppressed even more. This was a good thing for Yang Hanwu, but it also limited the World Seed's growth. The Divine Flame Mountain might contain some huge secrets. Unfortunately, Yang Hanwu didn't have enough time to investigate and unearth them. Not long after leaving the Divine Fire Mountain, Yang Hanwu discovered a mighty force rushing towards the Divine Fire Mountain. Yang Hanwu activated his powerful eye technique to investigate. These people just so happened to be from Flame City. The one leading them was Flame City's City Lord, Fire Immortal Blade. Now, the Fire Immortal Saber's strength had increased, which surprised Yang Hanwu. The Fire Immortal Saber had already become a Sovereign Realm expert. Originally, the Fire Immortal Saber and Yilong were both half-step sovereigns. What Yang Hanwu hadn't expected was that the Fire Immortal Saber would actually cross the threshold and become a Sovereign Realm expert in such a short time. The cultivation speed of a Dominator was truly astonishing. Right now, the Fire Immortal Saber was in high spirits. Stop! The Fire Immortal Saber hadn't discovered Yang Hanwu's group of 5 yet, but he waved his hand to stop them. There was still a considerable distance between them and the Divine Fire Mountain. However, the reason why the fiery Immortal Blade stopped was because he sensed that something was wrong. In other words, he subconsciously sensed danger, which was why he stopped. It was a premonition. City Lord, why have we stopped? The Divine Fire Mountain is right in front of us. Aren't the 3 old ancestors in the Divine Fire Mountain? One of the elders asked. There weren't many people who knew about the existence of the 3 old ancestors of Flame City, the Fire Immortal Kwang brothers. At the very least, they were at the level of an elder in Flame City. Furthermore, ordinary elders wouldn't know about them. Therefore, many people didn't know about the strength of Flame City. Even the disciples of Flame City were only a few. All this while, they had thought that Flame City's strength was only what it looked like on the surface. It was only about the same as Dark Night City. However, in reality, Flame City was much stronger than Dark Night City. This was because of the existence of the Fire Immortal Kwang brothers. As the primogenitors of Flame City, not many people knew about them. Moreover, one of the 3 brothers was biding their time while the other was aiming for the World Seed on the Divine Flame Mountain. This World Seed was incomparably mysterious. In reality, they didn't know that it was the origin source of a powerful world. However, Yang Hanwu knew that this World Seed was far from what an ordinary world could compare to. This World Seed seemed to have reached an unimaginable level of power. However, Yang Hanwu was very curious. Why would the Forbearance Divine Hall Master place such a powerful World Seed in his Forbearance Divine Hall? This was an examination ground. In his world, it was impossible for such a powerful World Seed to not sense it. This was also what worried Yang Hanwu. After all, as his strength increased, Yang Hanwu was more and more shocked by the strength of the Forbearance Divine Hall Master. This was definitely a terrifying fellow. His strength was too terrifying. Moreover, this was his world. Yang Hanwu didn't believe that the Forbearance Divine Hall wasn't in the Forbearance Divine Hall Master's world. According to Yang Hanwu's thoughts, was the Forbearance Divine Hall really just looking for a suitable successor? This possibility wasn't very high. Even though for some people, inheritances were extremely important, in reality, at Jiga's level, their lives were practically immortal. As long as they didn't seek death themselves, they definitely wouldn't easily die. With their endless lives, how could they find an inheritor? That didn't seem to be the case. There was no need for that. Of course, if they were bored and wanted to have some fun, that would be a different story. However, when he thought of this, Yang Hanwu smiled. This kind of possibility really existed. When a person's strength reached a certain level, or in other words, when a powerhouse was bored to a certain extent, it was really possible. After mocking himself, Yang Hanwu threw these messy thoughts to the back of his mind. He, Huo Shenquang and the others slowly walked towards the Fire Immortal Blade. When the Fire Immortal Blade saw Yang Hanwu, his face turned pale with fright. Chapter 1859. Huoteng, you betrayed me, betrayed the entire Flame City. Are you worthy of me, worthy of Flame City's nurturing? Inferno Immortal Blade glared at Huoteng, killing intent flashing in his eyes. At this moment, Inferno Immortal Blade was no longer afraid of Yang Hongwu. Inferno Immortal Blade was strong to begin with. Now that he had broken through, he was naturally more confident. Moreover, this wasn't Dark Knight City's territory. Although he was defeated and ran away, it was impossible for him to do so now. His strength had increased by more than just a little. Plus, this was Flame City's territory, making him even more confident. If Dark Knight alone dared to appear here, he could easily kill him with a single strike. Although Yang Hongwu was strange, he wasn't afraid of him. However, when he noticed Hu Shenquang and Hu Shenhuang behind Yang Hongwu, he frowned. These two people were too similar to the two patriarchs of Flame City. However, their auras were much weaker. You? Who are you? Inferno Immortal Blade asked. Who are we? Hu Shenquang snorted, Fire Immortal Blade, how dare you not bow to me just because you've made a breakthrough? Old ancestor? Hearing Hu Shenquang's words, Inferno Immortal Blade's eyes widened. He couldn't be more familiar with this voice. It was the old ancestor of Flame City, Hu Shenquang. He had heard Hu Shenquang's voice before, but he had only seen the portraits of the three brothers. Forget it. Hu Shenquang and his two brothers had never seen anyone from the Flame City. Even the fiery Immortal Blade, the city lord, had only communicated with him through voice. Old ancestor, why are you with him? He's a great enemy of Flame City. Inferno Immortal Blade said. Nonsense. Hu Shenhuang said, Inferno Immortal Blade, what do you know? How dare you disrespect the young master? Do you know that you're courting death? Inferno Immortal Blade was stunned. This was the old ancestor of Flame City? How could he side with an outsider? Moreover, the auras of these two people were weak. Their strength wasn't that terrifying. One had to know that the three old ancestors in his heart were extremely powerful and terrifying. Back then, he didn't even dare to raise his head in front of the three old ancestors. Their auras were too oppressive. He was afraid that he was too powerful. However, the two people in front of him who looked very similar to the great ancestor were far inferior. You're all fakes. How dare you impersonate the ancestors of my Flame City? At this moment, the Inferno Immortal Blade's eyes shone with a chilling glint as a battle saber appeared in his hands. This battle saber was none other than the Inferno Immortal Blade's supreme utmost treasure. With a swing of his saber, he slashed towards the Inferno Godly Yellow. Seeing the Fire Immortal Blade attack, the Fire God Yellow was enraged. Fire Immortal Blade, how dare you attack me? This is disgraceful. You must be tired of living. The Fire God Yellow was enraged. To think that this B** star would dare to attack him. This fellow was the city lord that he had groomed single-handedly. To think that he would dare to attack him with a battle saber today. This was an unforgivable sin. The enraged Fire God Yellow waved his hand, and a talisman appeared. This talisman turned into a gigantic net. Instantly, this net shrouded the Inferno Immortal Blade. The Inferno Immortal Blade snorted coldly, you think that a mere net can trap me? If this were before I came, this net might have been a little bit of a threat to me. But now that my cultivation state has broken through, this net can't even withstand a single blow. The moment the Inferno Immortal Blade finished his words, he slashed out with his saber and sliced apart the net. This saber contained an extremely domineering law of destruction. The Fire God Yellow was injured by this attack. However, the Fire God Yellow wasn't enraged. Instead, he was elated. This was all part of his plan. The Inferno Immortal Blade was someone that he had his eyes on. This was the body that he needed. His contract transfer mystic art had two directions. One was to directly transfer one's soul, which was similar to possession. In other words, it was to directly transfer one's body. The other was to directly transfer the contract. However, if he wanted to transfer the contract directly, it would be a little troublesome. Once the contract was transferred, he would consume a lot of energy. Moreover, once the contract was transferred, Yang Hongwu would definitely discover it. In that case, even if he transferred the contract, he wouldn't be able to escape. It was suitable. The other method was to directly exchange the spiritual soul with another person. During the daylight robbery, the spiritual soul would be transferred, and the contract would be bound to the physical body. This way, after the successful transfer of the spiritual soul, his spiritual soul would be free from the shackles. In this way, the contract would have no effect on him. Another spiritual soul would be transferred to his physical body, and it would be equivalent to bearing the contract for him. Moreover, by doing so, his spiritual power would be transferred to the new physical body. As long as he was given time, he would be able to recover. Not only that, if the new physical body was outstanding enough, he would be able to use the new physical body to advance to the next level. Hu Shenquang had this idea. His target was the fire immortal blade. He had already calculated this from the start. The reason why the fire immortal blade's cultivation base had increased was because he had already started to use the contract transfer secret technique. A part of the fire immortal blade's spiritual power had been transferred to the fire immortal blade. However, the fire immortal blade still didn't know that he had become the target of seizing. At this moment, he was feeling proud of his improvement in cultivation base. He didn't care about the instability of his spiritual soul. He thought that the instability of his spiritual soul and that it was about to leave his physical body was because he had just broken through to the sovereign realm and his strength wasn't stable yet. The fire immortal blade was pushed back. Although it looked angry on the surface, Yang Hanwu still saw the trace of pride in its heart. Yang Hanwu didn't say what the fire immortal blade was planning. Yang Hanwu didn't know, but he was sure that the fire immortal blade had something in mind. Moreover, it wasn't something good. However, Yang Hanwu was also puzzled. He didn't think that the fire immortal blade could get rid of his contract. If it was an ordinary divine emperor realm martial artist who had signed a servant contract with the fire immortal blade, it would be possible to get rid of the contract. However, the fire immortal blade had signed a servant contract with him, so it would be extremely difficult to get rid of the contract. Unless the divine emperor realm martial artist was much stronger than him, definitely surpassing the sovereign realm. Chapter 1860. Such arrogance, you unfilial bastard. Hu Shenquang was infuriated. How dare this brat be so impudent? Although the three of them weren't in Flame City, how could the fire immortal blade, the city lord of Flame City, not be able to sense it? The incomparably pure power of fire was the source of Flame City's power. One had to know that Flame City was built by them. As the city lord, he could use the source energy of Flame City. He could definitely sense the source energy in their bodies, but this little bastard didn't want to admit it. Hu Shenquang knew what the fire immortal blade was planning. If the two of them returned to Flame City, the fire immortal blade would have to hand over his authority. If the fire immortal blade hadn't broken through to the sovereign realm, it would have been fine. But now that he had broken through to the sovereign realm, his ambition had grown. Especially when he discovered that his and his brother's cultivation were only at the sovereign realm, and their auras were so weak, his ambition grew even more. In fact, the fire immortal blade had the same idea. When he first saw Hu Shenquang and Hua Shenhuang, he didn't recognize them as the ancestors of Flame City. However, after exchanging blows with Hua Shenhuang, he could sense the source energy in Hua Shenhuang's body. It came from the same source as Flame City's source energy. Other than the city lord, there were only the three ancestors who had this kind of power. However, even though he knew, when he saw the two of them with Yang Hanwu, he knew that Yang Hanwu was his enemy. Although he hated Yang Hanwu, he was also grateful to Yang Hanwu. If it wasn't for Yang Hanwu, his cultivation would have remained at the Emperor realm. What about the Sovereign realm? Since the two great ancestors were with Yang Hanwu, and the two great ancestors seemed to have become weaker, it was a great opportunity for him. If he could devour the origins of the two great ancestors, his strength would rise to the next level, and he would break through the bottleneck and reach a higher level. Moreover, he might even reach the late-stage Sovereign realm. Once one reached the Sovereign realm, the increase in strength with every minor level was enormous. The difference between each level was like the difference between the heavens and the earth. If the two ancestors were at their peak, he wouldn't have the guts to do so. But now, the two ancestors were extremely weak. They might only be half-step sovereigns. If he didn't seize this opportunity, he wouldn't have another chance. The powerful ambition had completely destroyed the trace of kindness in his heart. His demonic thoughts had completely erupted. Greed, evil, slaughter, and all these thoughts had appeared. In fact, this was Hua Shenhuang's plan. Fire Immortal Blade was someone he had nurtured. How could he be weak? Hua Shenhuang's plan. He didn't want the Fire Immortal Blades to make him lose his mind. Woods. Hua Shenhuang. That way, he woods, that way, Hua Shenhuang's hun. Had s's. Is t, otherwise, his brother, Hua Shenhuang, would be suspicious if he attacked the Fire Immortal Blade for no reason. He couldn't let that happen. The Fire Immortal Blade was affected. He became more evil and greedy. Gradually, he lost his mind. All of this was due to Hua Shenhuang's influence. Yang Hanwu squinted his eyes, looking at the Fire Immortal Blade. He also noticed Hua Shenhuang and Hua Shenhuang with a thought. Hua Shenhuang was too calm. This made Yang Hanwu suspicious. However, Yang Hanwu didn't show it. He didn't do anything. He just observed from the dark. He didn't know what Hua Shenhuang was going to do. Yang Hanwu didn't think that Hua Shenhuang could escape his control. At this moment, Hua Shenhuang moved. Hua Shenhuang couldn't hold back his anger. How dare the Fire Immortal Blade attack an ancestor? This was unforgivable. Die! You little bastard, how dare you betray your master? You deserve to die. Today, let me clean up the house. Hua Shenhuang roared and pounced on the Fire Immortal Blade. In his eyes, the Fire Immortal Blade was strong because he was the city lord. He had the origin energy of Flame City in his body. But who was Hua Shenhuang? He was the ancestor of Flame City, the master of Flame Continent's origin energy. When the three brothers had entered the sky-reaching continent, they had already completely grasped the origin of the Flame Continent, becoming the three sovereigns of the Flame Continent. Each of them had grasped three origins of the Flame Continent. When the three origins of the Flame Continent were combined, they were the entire Flame Continent. Now, Hua Shentu was dead. However, his origin energy was devoured and refined by Yang Hanwu. However, Yang Hanwu didn't control a part of the continent's origin energy because Hua Shentu's part had been completely refined. It was the purest and most primitive origin energy. It was the origin energy, not the origin energy of any continent. This was equivalent to weakening the strength of Flame Continent. Therefore, at that time, when the Fire God's diagram's origin energy was refined, the Flame Continent suffered a great calamity. The entire continent's spiritual chi fell by a lot. This also weakened Hua Shenhuang and Hua Shenhuang's strength, causing their recovery speed to decrease. However, what surprised Hua Shenhuang was that the Fire Immortal Blade's strength had increased. He had even broken through to the sovereign realm. This was unbelievable. If the Fire Immortal Blade was tactful, he would have asked him the reason for his breakthrough. He would have found a way to make him stronger. But now, the Fire Immortal Blade wanted to attack him. This was unforgivable. Hua Shenhuang wanted to capture the Fire Immortal Blade and obtain the secret of Fire Immortal Blade's cultivation from him. In sky-penetrating continent, it was possible to increase one's own origin energy by attacking other cities and plundering their origin energy. However, this was extremely difficult. Otherwise, they wouldn't have taken such a great risk to refine the Divine Seed in Divine Fire Mountain. If they had the seed, they wouldn't have become Yang Hongwu's servant. Chapter 1861. If he was more careful, he would have noticed that Fire God Huang's origin energy was decreasing. However, Fire God Huang was injured, so he did not notice it. He thought that it was because of the injury, so he did not think much about it. Furthermore, the Fire Immortal Blade would not be able to obtain the origin source energy from the Fire Deity Huang unless the Fire Deity Huang took the initiative. However, he did not believe that the fire deity Huang would be willing to give his origin source energy to the fire immortal blade. Origin energy was not an ordinary thing. Once it was given out, it could not be taken back. Ha! Old man, your strength is only SOSO. Fire immortal blade laughed. Facing fire god Huang's attack, he was not afraid at all. Instead, he had the upper hand. Hu Shenquang was infuriated. He didn't expect that he wouldn't be able to take down a mere Inferno Immortal Blade due to his injuries. Although Inferno Immortal Blade's cultivation had increased to the Sovereign Realm, he had only just entered the Sovereign Realm. They had entered the Sovereign Realm a long time ago. Fire God Huang was frustrated that he could not take down a newbie who had just entered the Sovereign Realm. However, there was nothing he could do. Damn it. You little bastard. Second brother, let's team up and take down this little bastard. Fire God Huang said to Fire God Huang when he saw that he could not take down Fire Immortal Blade alone. Fire God Huang nodded and joined forces with Fire God Huang. He knew that he had to suppress the Immortal Fire Saber at this moment. Otherwise, his plan might fail. If the Immortal Fire Saber turned into a demon, it would be extremely terrifying. At that time, he wouldn't be able to control it. After all, he was severely injured and had not fully recovered. If he could not control Fire Immortal Blade and something went wrong, all his plans would go down the drain. It would be a great loss for him. When the two of them joined forces, the pressure on the fiery Immortal Saber was not small at all. When this horrifying pressure erupted, the fiery Immortal Saber felt an immense threat. At this moment, Fire Immortal Blade regained his consciousness. Careless. Too careless. The strength of these two old antiques was too strong. If the two of them joined forces, he would not be a match for them at all. Attack. Kill these two old men who dare to impersonate our old ancestor. Fire Immortal Blade turned around and said to the people behind him. Although the people behind him weren't as strong as the Fire Immortal Blade, they weren't weak either. Moreover, they knew how to combine their attacks, increasing the pressure on Hu Shenquang and Hua Shenhuang. If it was just the Inferno Immortal Blade, the two of them could still suppress him. However, with the addition of the experts from Flame City, things were different. If they were at their peak, they wouldn't have to worry at all. After all, the difference between the Sovereign Realm and the Emperor Realm was huge. Under normal circumstances, a Sovereign Realm powerhouse would be able to fight against dozens of Emperor-level martial artists. However, the problem now was that they were heavily injured and had the Fire Immortal Saber to hold them back. This allowed the Flame City powerhouses to set up a formation to deal with them without worry. This was the biggest headache for Hu Shenquang. You bastards. We're the ancestors of Flame City. How dare you attack us? Are you going to rebel with the Fire Immortal Saber? Hu Shenquang roared furiously. Humph. What ancestors? Did you see that? That kid is the one who stopped us from attacking Anya City. If it wasn't for him, we would have conquered Anya City long ago. How could our enemy be our old ancestor? Moreover, we're the ancestors of Flame City. How could our old ancestor be so weak? Fire Immortal Saber shouted. Everyone hesitated when they heard Hu Shenquang's words. However, after hearing Fire Immortal Saber's words, their eyes became firm and they believed in Fire Immortal Saber. In their hearts, the old ancestor of Flame City was definitely a terrifying existence, invincible. There had always been a legend in Flame City that the old ancestor's cultivation had reached a terrifying level. If it wasn't for some special reason, Flame City would have been able to sweep through half of the continent. Sky-penetrating continent. This was just a rumor. In fact, this was what Hu Shenquang and the others had been spreading all this time. Hu Shenquang smiled bitterly when he saw this. He didn't expect that their actions would cause them so much trouble now. It was really frustrating. Bam! The experts of Flame City joined forces and attacked together. The power of this attack was incomparably violent, instantly sending Hu Shenquang and Hua Shenhuang flying. The two of them coughed out blood and got up. Hu Shenquang's body was trembling. Only Hua Shenhuang was calm. At this moment, his plan had succeeded. The contract had been transferred. Only one step was left. As long as this step was completed, he would be able to control Flame City alone. Moreover, he would be able to break free from Yang Hongwu's shackles. He was the ruler of Flame City, the ruler of Flame Mainland. How could he become someone else's servant? This was a humiliation, a great humiliation. Hua Shenhuang roared in his heart. When he completely controlled Flame City and broke through the bottleneck, he would definitely torture that bastard Yang Hongwu to death. Young master. Hua Shenhuang spoke, I'm sorry, young master. This subordinate is incapable. Hua Shenhuang closed his eyes and sighed. There was no other way. He was completely out of ideas. If he was at his peak, he could still take care of these traitors. But now that he had not recovered from his injuries and was suppressed by the fire immortal blade, he had no strength to defeat these traitors. Let me do it. Yang Hongwu said calmly. Kid, get out of my way. I won't make things difficult for you. Seeing Yang Hongwu stand out, the fire immortal blade squinted his eyes. Everyone thought that the fire immortal blade would make a move, but unexpectedly, the fire immortal blade did not do so. One should know that they had the absolute advantage in terms of strength. Their aura was at its peak. They are my servants, Qin Wenyan said. Yang Hongwu said, you have to look at the master before beating a dog. You want to kill my servants in front of me? Aren't you disrespecting me? City Lord, what are you afraid of? Isn't this the kid who stopped us from conquering Dark Knight City? Today, after killing him, we'll go to Dark Knight City and conquer it. One of them said. Shut up. I'm talking. Why are you interrupting? The fire immortal blade sent the person flying with a slap and glared at him coldly. His eyes were filled with murderous intent. He hated Yang Hongwu to the core. However, the fire immortal saber could sense that he was facing a huge crisis. This crisis could be fatal. This feeling made his hair stand on end. Although he did not know who this crisis was coming from, he suspected that it was coming from Yang Hongwu, who was standing in front of him. Chapter 1862. Especially when Inferno Immortal Saber heard Yang Hongwu say that Hua Shenhuang and Hua Shang were his servants, and they didn't refute him. That was terrifying. He knew the strength of the three ancestors of Flame City very well. They were definitely very strong. Moreover, they were high and mighty. How could they be willing to become someone's servants? They must have been forced to agree to become someone's servants because they had no other choice. What kind of strength was needed to make the three old ancestors so willing? Thinking of this, Inferno Immortal Saber felt even more uneasy. Moreover, this uneasy feeling was getting stronger and stronger. Could it be that this kid had obtained the supreme treasure of the Divine Fire Mountain? He knew that there was an extremely powerful supreme treasure in the Divine Fire Mountain. The three ancestors had been in the Divine Fire Mountain for a long time. Their goal was to obtain that supreme treasure. If that was really the case, then it would be terrifying. He had heard that once that supreme treasure was obtained, one would be able to move unhindered in the sky-reaching continent. Experts were as common as clouds in the sky-reaching continent. How difficult was it to move unhindered in the sky-reaching continent? Furthermore, the entire heaven-span continent was connected to the myriad worlds. Every so many years, countless geniuses would come from the myriad worlds and enter the heaven-span continent. To be able to move unhindered in the sky-reaching continent, one had to be at least a peak sovereign. Most importantly, the sky-reaching continent was one of the worlds of the self-defense divine palace. In other words, one had to obtain the approval of the self-defense divine palace's master. Moreover, how difficult was it to stand out among the tens of thousands of worlds? Even if there were only a few geniuses in each world, there were still tens of thousands of geniuses in the 10,000 worlds. Those were true geniuses. They were the best of the best in each world. Therefore, it was extremely difficult to become the overlord of the sky-reaching continent. Therefore, if that supreme treasure was really that powerful, then it would be truly incredible. You can leave. I can let you go. After hesitating for a moment, Inferno Immortal Saber said, out of respect for you, I will let these two people who dared to impersonate the ancestors of Flame City go. Hearing this, Yan Hanwu sneered, Inferno Immortal Saber, you're too naive. You blocked my path and beat up my servants. You think you can just let me go with a single sentence? Who do you think I, Yan Hanwu, am? What kind of joke was this? How could he leave so easily at this time? Naive, too naive. One had to know that his main target was Flame City. Now that he had subdued the two patriarchs of Flame City as his servants, Flame City would become a small base for him. From there, he could begin to spread his influence across the entire Tongtian continent and establish a huge base. Of course, this was a long-term thing. However, Yan Hanwu couldn't stay in the sky-reaching continent for a long time. His goal was to leave this place as soon as possible. It would be best if he could enter the divine domain as soon as possible. It was a pity that Yan Hanwu did not know if there was a passageway to the god domain and the heavenly reaching continent. If there was, it would be great. However, the possibility of this happening was very slim. What do you want? Hearing Yan Hanwu's words, Fire Immortal Saber's heart tightened. That ominous premonition was getting stronger. Was it an illusion, or was danger really coming? This made Fire Immortal Saber even more uneasy. What do I want? Yan Hanwu smiled. I want the entire Flame City. You want me to become your servant? Fire Immortal Saber's eyes turned cold as he stared at Yan Hanwu. You're dreaming, do you know that? Although you're very strong, I'm not weak either. Moreover, I'm the City Lord of Flame City. I can mobilize the power of the entire Flame City. If you retreat now, you can forget about it. Otherwise, even if I have to pay a certain price, I will kill you here. Kill me? Yan Hanwu narrowed his eyes and chuckled. What big words. You can try and see if you can kill me. However, I'm afraid you won't be able to bear the consequences. If you can't kill me, then the one who will die will be you. You've only just broken through. If you die like this, TSK, it'll be a pity. When Yan Hanwu said this, a faint murderous intent locked onto Fire Immortal Saber. Yan Hanwu purposely revealed this murderous intent. Otherwise, Fire Immortal Saber wouldn't be able to sense it. Under this murderous intent, Fire Immortal Saber became even more uneasy. He felt immense pressure. Fire Immortal Saber was furious. He was threatened. He could see that Yan Hanwu didn't intend to let him go, let alone retreat. His target was Flame City. Unless he was willing to give up Flame City, this guy wouldn't let him go. What about me? If you surrender now, you'll still have a chance to live. Yan Hanwu said. Damn it, City Lord, I can't take it anymore. I'm going to kill this little bastard. An elder couldn't take it anymore. A mere divine emperor warrior dared to be so presumptuous. It was too abominable. As soon as the elder finished speaking, he had already rushed forward. At this moment, it was too late for Fire Immortal Saber to stop him. In the blink of an eye, the elder appeared in front of Yan Hanwu. His claw reached towards Yan Hanwu, wanting to grab Yan Hanwu's head off. However, how could Yan Hanwu be so simple? Although the elder's strength wasn't bad, it was still not enough in front of Yan Hanwu. Even if Yan Hanwu couldn't use the power of the common people's great seal and borrow the origin power of the common people's great world, he was still very powerful. Especially at this moment, Yan Hanwu had already secretly set up a formation. Everything was under his control. If it wasn't for the formation, why would Yan Hanwu talk so much nonsense with Fire Immortal Saber? Once the formation was successfully set up, it meant that Yan Hanwu was already in an invincible position. The elder was excited as he was about to grab Yan Hanwu's head. However, Fire Immortal Saber was indescribably worried when he saw this. He knew that the elder was definitely going to die. The secret technique that the elder used was Fire Immortal's giant claw. It was a powerful attack that erupted from his origin power. However, it relied on his powerful divine fire as the foundation. Chapter 1863. Not good. The elder's expression changed drastically. At this moment, he finally realized how terrifying Yan Hanwu was. His divine fire was completely useless in front of Yan Hanwu. The flaming hand was instantly turned into nothingness. At this moment, he naturally understood how powerful Yan Hanwu was. It was terrifying. He finally understood why the fiery immortal saber, the city lord, was still afraid of Yan Hanwu even though he had a breakthrough in his strength. It turned out that their means were suppressed by Yi Shiwen. Any fire attribute attack would be futile in front of him. This was the most terrifying thing. He was definitely the greatest threat to Flame City. He initially thought that he could take down Yan Hanwu, a mere divine emperor realm warrior. But now, he knew that he was finished. He realized that he had no way out and Yan Hanwu would not let him go. A cold light burst out from his eyes. Since he couldn't escape unscathed, he knew that he was going to die. Then, he would fight to the death. Even if he couldn't kill Yan Hanwu, he would at least severely injure him. Injure the greatest enemy of Flame City. Die. The elder's aura rose crazily. He was burning his own blood and life force. You're burning your own blood and life force to deal with me? Yan Hanwu squinted his eyes and said. Unfortunately, you're too naive. Even if I can't kill you, I'll still injure you severely. Go to hell. The elder launched a frenzied attack on Yan Hanwu. He gathered all his strength on his hands and threw a heavy punch at Yan Hanwu. Even a sovereign realm expert like the fiery immortal saber would be severely injured by this punch. This showed how terrifying and powerful this punch was. The fiery immortal saber had mixed feelings when he saw this. Of course, he knew why he was burning his own life force to attack Yan Hanwu. It was to injure Yan Hanwu and create an opportunity for him. However, the fiery immortal saber smiled bitterly in his heart. He knew that Yan Hanwu wasn't easy to deal with. Moreover, Yan Hanwu would be enraged after suffering such a suicidal attack. In that case, not only would Yan Hanwu not retreat, he would also attack him crazily. Flame City would attack. However, there was no turning back at this point. The fiery immortal saber was able to become the city lord of Flame City. How could he not know that Yan Hanwu was the greatest enemy of Flame City? However, this enemy was too mysterious. Moreover, Yan Hanwu was so young. It was impossible for such a monstrous genius to have no background. Although he had met Yan Hanwu in Dark Knight City and had a good relationship with Yan Hanwu, the fiery immortal saber didn't think that Yan Hanwu was really from Dark Knight City. Even if he came from Dark Knight City, he might not necessarily be from Dark Knight Continent. He could clearly feel that the origin force in Yan Hanwu's body didn't come from the same source as Dark Knight Continent. Therefore, Yan Hanwu's origin force wasn't from Dark Knight City. He might be a descendant or a disciple of a peerless expert who was sent to Dark Knight Continent to gain experience. The fiery immortal saber was very jealous. Why was Dark Knight City so lucky to have such a peerless genius to gain experience in Dark Knight Continent while Flame Continent didn't have one? If Flame City could have such a heaven-defying genius, then Flame City's fortune would increase tremendously. In the sky-reaching continent, the birth of a super genius was a huge boost to any city. After the fiery immortal saber's breakthrough, he could faintly feel that Dark Knight alone was also showing signs of a breakthrough. This was the fortune brought about by a monstrous genius like Yan Hanwu. Of course, this was a benefit that only the city lord could get. You want to injure me? Yan Hanwu smiled faintly. His eyes were full of disdain. You? What a joke. Having said that, Yan Hanwu raised his hand and struck out with a finger. Jingshin finger. This attack instantly collided with the elder's attack and scattered it. Such an overbearing punch was actually easily dispersed by this finger. Seeing this scene, everyone's eyes widened. What kind of magical battle technique was that? It was actually so powerful. One had to know that the attack of the Flame City Elder just now was comparable to the attack of a Sovereign Realm expert. However, Yang Hongwu's finger attack didn't seem to have any breathtaking aspects, nor did it have any world-shaking might. Yet, it just so happened that, however, it didn't seem to have any earth-shattering power because this finger easily dispersed the attack that the Elder from Flame City had condensed with all his strength. In fact, only Yang Hongwu himself knew how much strength he had used up in that attack. Although he had blocked that attack, he didn't feel good either. He had used up a lot of energy. The impact of that attack had been transferred to the common people's great world by him. In Yang Hongwu's inner world, there was a sea region in the common people's great world. The sky waves in a small island were directly shattered by that domineering power and turned into nothingness. The impact of this attack had greatly depleted Yang Hongwu's mental energy. If he were to unleash another attack like this, it would be quite a big blow to him. If there were 3 attacks like that in a row, Yang Hongwu would be injured. After all, it was an attack that an Emperor expert had used up his life force. If it was really so easy to block, then it would be too easy. After all, he was only in the Divine Emperor realm now. If he could reach the Emperor realm, then it would be a different story. Now, you can die. Having said that, a divine light burst out from Yang Hongwu's eyes. This divine light instantly enveloped the Elder's body. In an instant, the Elder's body turned into nothingness and disappeared. Dead. An Emperor Realm Elder was killed by Yang Hongwu with a glance. Everyone present sucked in a breath of cold air. Terrifying. Killing with a glance. This was an eye technique, a supreme eye technique. In the divine light that burst out from Yang Hongwu, Fire Immortal Blade and the others felt a huge pressure. This was a supreme pressure that came from the soul. This eye technique was definitely not simple. Fire Immortal Blade, Fire Immortal Kwang and Fire Immortal Huang were incomparably envious. You're tuning into the Mythic Realms YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.